and welcome to Let's Talk About Book, where we talk about book. And I'm Smeevca.
And I'm Strawberry.
And we're reading The Hero of Ages. I did think well of Ascension, but I thought it well before I got to actually having to say it. It's still... I was looking at our YouTube analytics earlier, at the playlist, and I was looking at Hero of Ages, and I was like, that's the first one we did. Nope, it's the current one we're on. It's like, wow, the first series we did only had 5. We only did 5 podcast episodes. Nope,
that's our current.
But we're reading Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, and we did, what was it? We did
the chapters?
Yes, what chapters did we do?
43 through 52.
Through 52. Right. 43 through 52, which I read those a while ago.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, so
we got a little ahead. And then
complacent, I feel like that's how it's like, and then we got tired and stuff was happening,
Yeah, stuff was happening. The weekends weren't quite as good for recording as we had wanted. But, we're doing it now.
Yeah.
And we normally start off with our little segment where we talk about the other stuff that we've been reading, sort of besides the main thing that we're reading for the podcast, but it's like, what else are we reading?
I've been reading some, so I've been continuing my Cradle reread.
Right.
So I only have Dread God and Waybound left to go, and I've been having fun with that. And then I started reading, I believe his name is Robert Bennett. Let me check. It's like the I read his book The Tainted Cup, and then I started the Foundry Side trilogy. I read the first book of the Foundry Side and The Tainted Cup. They were all right. I enjoyed them. I'll probably continue the Foundry Side trilogy like in between other stuff, like just when I feel like it. But yeah, dialogue isn't my favorite, but I think
is it the one where they explain everything too much?
Yeah, it's not my favorite dialogue and prose. It's very it needs to lay everything out at basically the beginning and end of every chapter. It feels like, and just sometimes he'll really get in the groove and I'll really start to be kind of enjoying it, and then he'll do an aside to just explain everything word for word what we just saw in the chapter, just a summary, and then what's the plan for the next time that we're with these characters. And then you get with those characters again, and you get the same recap that you got the end of the last time, and then you get the same, this is what we're going to do this chapter, and then that happens, and then you get the same thing. So it's a bit, Yeah, so it's a bit, it's just a bit kind of repetitive. I really enjoy segments, but
Right, and you're saying that, you're, talking about how people talk about Sanderson's writing?
Yeah. People will kind of criticize Sanderson for his kind of, simplistic prose and, kind of some more modern, word, choices and stuff. I've never had that, bother me in Sanderson's book. In his books and stuff, I, enjoy... when he goes for more flowery prose, I enjoy that, and then when he's more simplistic, I it. It does what it's supposed to do. I don't think about it.
Yeah, right.
It's not that's what it's designed for, is for you to not pay too much attention. And then the modern word choices. Every once in a while, a word will throw me off, but not really.
Yeah,
I feel like the criticisms that I hear of Sanderson's prose just feels like it fits this more.
Yeah.
I've never had those issues with his, but those same issues that I hear people talk about with kind of Sanderson's is the issues that I have.
Right.
Basically.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But I did enjoy the books. I don't want to say I'm saying all that. I did, majority enjoy. I think he had some interesting world building stuff. I think some of his characters were interesting. And stuff like that. So I still had a good enough time.
Yep. And I have been continuing my Wheel of Time reading, because I'll listen to the section of Hero of Ages for the podcast, and then once I finish that section, I'll be listening to Wheel of Time, because it's been so long. I fully finished Path of Daggers. Which was like Path of Daggers had definitely some good stuff in there, but it felt the most middle of the books. In terms of just like, and we're gonna look and we're gonna see what everyone's up to and set up stuff for next book, and that's it. It's literally there would be these things where it's like, and then we see this person. Here's what they're doing, and here's setting up for what they're gonna do in the future. Not even in this book. Like, there was so much stuff from this book that I thought was going to come back this book.
No, none of it. It's like all set up.
But it's like all set up, except for like seeing Rand go do some war stuff. Which is like, okay. Like, it's interesting, but it's also just like, okay. And also then like the fallout of that, I guess we're going to like see more of like the fallout of that. Like this book again, but it's so just like I was expecting more sort of emotional stuff immediately after from Rand that hasn't happened. Maybe we'll get into it. But yeah, it's just there was some really cool stuff, but it's like early on we have some people talking about Rand and like we gotta teach Rand this thing and.
How to smile or whatever.
Yeah, it's like how to not be so, it's like he needs to be able to laugh and to cry or whatever. Basically not have Rand turn into just like sort of like lose himself in that way. And then we see in this book how Rand is sort of going in that direction, going in this direction of being too hard, as they say. And but then we don't see them doing that at all. In this book. And also it's just like it's just more we had because we talked about something recently, like more of the weird like sexual stuff in Wheel of Time. Because like last time we talked about like Alana existing. And how all that sort of goes, but there was like something else. It was Lan.
Yes. Oh yeah, we finally talked about Lan from a few books ago.
Yes.
And my issue with Moraine.
yes, because I had forgotten about it because I had been like in the book that I had like left off for a little bit that I like took a break in the middle of. That happened like earlier in that book or whatever, and I had just forgotten because it had been so long.
And the book just doesn't condemn Moraine at all.
No.
And it makes me angry.
Yeah, because she really didn't like.
She
sends Lan off to the sister who really doesn't treat Lan very well, but
she knows who she's sending him to, and Lan explicitly told her that he did not want that for himself.
Yeah, and
in multiple ways, it's just horrible.
Right, but it's just sort of like it's this weird sort of duality of like sexual violence aimed towards women, we very much understand. Bad. Sexual violence aimed towards men, I have a friend who in our group chat was like, Robert Jordan's the kind of guy who would, whenever there's like a story about a female teacher and a male student, be like, oh, I wish I had teachers like that back in my day. It's like... Yeah, it's just odd, because it'll be like, yes, this was bad, but also, like, it was only so bad.
But,
It's just like, like, it was bad, but like, how bad, like, it's oh well.
Right.
So that's been something, and I've started Winter's Heart.
Yeah.
Or Heart of Winter, or whatever it's called. Winter's Heart. And, I've only, like, just kind of started it.
Yeah.
And have been not continuing to listen to it. Like, I listened to, like, the first little bit of it.
Yeah.
And then I haven't been listening to it the past few days at work, because I've been listening to, like, Noah Gervais video essays instead.
Yeah.
Just been listening to a bunch of those. I've just been on a kick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listening to his 9-hour plus video on the Fallout series, on the whole Fallout series, because that was like his verse video. Also, Also, I watched his, like, he did, like, a Patreon Q&A video for his 10th anniversary, although he was, like, 10th-ish anniversary.
Yeah.
It's actually more like 11 years now, but, like, you know, but I'm slow.
Good enough.
Yeah, it's like, but I'm slow on these things. And he's just, like, one, in it, he talks about, like, because, you know, it's a common thing whenever you have to, like, edit yourself not liking the sound of your own voice or whatever, which I had, but I've kind of gotten over in some ways, which is strange.
Yeah.
But he talked about it, which is funny because has one of my favorite, like, sort of voices Like I really like his video essays for their content, but I also like his, like, style and his, like, way of talking. He has good radio voice, as he says. But he'll just, because, like, he used to read all of the names on, like, Patreon.
Right.
It would be like all the people who pledged above a certain tier, you know, you're in the credits, and he would read all of them for, like, a long time at the end of these videos. And he's not doing that anymore because it's just logistically, you know. But I would, like, listen to them sometimes, and he'll just, you know, be just, like, straight-faced reading some of these, like, ridiculous names. Yeah. Like, one of them, someone was like, their name was something along the lines of, like, don't read my name, I'm serious, or whatever. But then during the Patreon Q&A, it was like, this question comes from boogers, something like, I don't remember exactly how many it was. boogers, asks. Just like, thank you, no. Just straight-faced reading it. So that's been fun. He was like, he said that he, like, had like a lisp or something growing up, and so was given, like, speech therapy. And that's why he sounds the way he does. He's like, no one naturally has a transatlantic accent, but if you teach an 8-year-old to speak that way, if you teach someone to speak that way when they're 8 years old, it'll stick. Like, you kid, we're gonna make you sound like Walter Cronkite.
That's great.
But yeah, no. He's just one of my favorite video essay people. And he talks about just, like, how, like, overly long the videos are, but it's like, but
it's fun.
But I need something to listen to while I'm at work for so long, you know. But yeah, so that's what we've been doing. And there was a new One Piece chapter.
Yeah, there was a new One Piece chapter. Oh, right. I was gonna yell about that. I forgot. Not at the chapter. I was fine with the chapter. I was quite excited about the chapter. And then I went on Twitter to see people be excited about this cool new character design.
And said they're all being Polly from Water 7.
Exactly. I'm like, when did y'all get to be prudes? I'm like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of those funny things because it's like, I mean, as someone who has a very particular relationship to clothing, it's like clothing's all made up.
Yeah, right.
It's like clothing's it's all made up. The modesty, how much of your body, like, you're allowed to show or whatever, it's all made up. It's to me, it's the classic, like, bikini. Fine. Right. But she, you know, it's like,
so basically she has, like, a coat, like, kind of long sleeve coat, like, with a collar and a hat and, like, basically bikini bottoms and like a kind of tall shoe. Yeah. Cool character design. I really like enjoyed it and stuff. And I went on Twitter and people were like, "Where's her pants?" They were, like, freaking out. I'm like,
because
I'm like, I swear I'm not in Christian school anymore. Right. Like, y'all, you're giving me flashbacks.
I mean, because like I say, it's like, bikini, fine. Going out in your underwear, not fine. Even if a bikini shows just as much or sometimes less than the underwear would. But so whenever it's worn in the context of the jacket and stuff, it's suddenly in people's minds become underwear, which is a no-no, as opposed to, like, bikini bottoms, which are fine, because in One Piece we've seen,
like, so many, like,
you know, like,
I just like, I don't understand it.
Because what's funny is that, like, the look of it is in some ways reminiscent to like Egghead
Yeah.
fashion, which, given what we know about how like Egghead and its stuff is based off of like Void Century stuff, and like Eam and the God's Knights, and the fact that Eam's been like around since the Void Century, so the idea that like maybe there's a little bit of that still same kind of I don't know,
like fashion or whatever.
Maybe I'm reaching or whatever, but
like people were like, the big argument I was saying was like, oh well, because people will be like, well, I mean, this type of designs are all over One Piece. Like, are you new? Like, what's going on? And then they're like, well, like, she's a God's Knight, so she shouldn't be like this. And I'm like, why? What in anything while watching One Piece has made you think that, like, just being an intimidating, powerful character doesn't mean you have either, like sexual revealing outfits or silly outfits or silly gags, or that's what One Piece is. If you're a strong whatever, like, you're more likely to have a gag.
Right.
Or something, or like some sort of thing that would feel contrary to,
It's one of those things where it's also like, I don't know, the Celestial Dragons, the God's Knights, all those people, they can do whatever they want.
Whatever they want.
They can do whatever they want, including not wear pants.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they're like representing the government, like going out like this. No, the Marines are representing the government going out in their Marine uniforms.
These people are like wearing full cloaks and... Like they're fully wearing like cloaks that are like hiding them up until the point that they are now talking to Loki, who they're trying to recruit.
Right.
Up until that point they were like fully even kind of like they're like even more secret, like they're on some secret mission shit.
Yeah, right.
I
don't know. It just is not. I don't get the issues, and people were freaking out about it, and then drawing panel fixes, which I'm like. Stop.
Yeah, it's just like
draw some fan art, like
right.
do a full fan art or whatever with a different outfit or something.
I'd see people draw Robin and Nami in like different outfits that are like less revealing and stuff all the time. It's fine. Yeah.
But panel fixes are like kind of annoying to me in general.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's...
Or even like just like. It's like, oh, I just wanted to put her in a different outfit, whatever. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
But I did not get the issues people were having.
Yeah, it's just like
I wanted to go on and see cool fan art of this cool new character.
Right. Because also it's like, it's from like a sort of silly like design perspective. It's just like, yeah, she has literally no pants and really long sleeves.
It looks cool. I love it. I love that design of like the super like big like
like like the scene girl like
like the drape over
the hands, but just like even longer, just so long.
I love that. It's like the super long drapey sleeves with a big structured collar and then a nice like structured hat and then like the like bikini bottom basically, and then the tall boots. I love it. Cool boots with big pieces on it.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, and then I was like, I was seeing that on Twitter, and then I'm like, I gotta talk about it on the podcast because, I'm being over here fuming at people. I'm like, stop giving me Christian school flashbacks, like,
right. Yeah, and yeah, it's just like
you sound like my old. Christian cheer coach that like told us how she was such a bad woman back in the day because she would roll her skirt elastic 3 times instead of once. Like
well
anyway.
Yeah it's just like there's a certain weird sort of shift culturally around the sort of like a certain older idea of like conservative and progressive, where like conservative is very like no sex and progressive is very like woo sexy or whatever, and so it's like certain like progressives I feel like feel a need to almost, like, concede on that point for, like, oh, well, we gotta be, like, to make our ideas more presentable.
Yeah.
We gotta be, like, less sexy or whatever.
Right.
Which is, like, weird. You know, it's like, no, we're very serious people about serious things. We care about, you know. But also there's certain, like, you know, the like, coming from, like, the sort of feminist, like I think, like, you watch that, like, ContraPoints.
Yeah.
You know, the like, really long one on, like, Twilight or whatever.
Yeah.
And talking about some of the, like, you know, radical feminists who are, like,
Yeah.
anti-sex.
Yep.
The like, political lesbianism.
Yep. And like, you definitely see that around in a different way nowadays, you know.
Yep. It's like, it all comes around again. You know, it's like the answer, you know, the answer is no sex. It's, you know, it's literally sleeping with the enemy. But, you know, and obviously it's like, you know, the complications of, like, how characters are presented, but, like, One Piece just has such a wide...
Right. It just doesn't feel like something like that...
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, One Piece has always been like this.
Yeah.
Like you get, like, a full variety of... You know, because people...
And it's also, like... It's not bad for a man to draw, like, sexy female characters and, like, makes it, like, I feel like we kind of get somehow get this thing that, like, if it's a male writer and they, like,
make a female character sexy, it's, like, inherently
right,
because that's one of the things that kind of, like, it's one of the things that honestly kind of rubbed me the wrong way about the ContraPoints video when talking about some of the whole, like, the masculine and the feminine, and the, like, the pursuer and the desired and the sort of, like the common male fantasies one just sort of, like, taint or diminish, like, taking a perfect thing and, like, sort of bringing it down via this, like, sexual whatever, and, like, getting into all this, like, stuff about that, and I'm like, I don't like that. Per se. You know, it's like, just because this character is sexy doesn't mean that they're, like, lesser or degraded in any sort of a way. You know, it's one of those things, like, if the character ends up just sort of being about that.
Right.
You know, when they're ostensibly supposed to be something else.
Right.
Then it's, like, an issue. You know, it's like, oh, this character's supposed to be, like, really cool and badass, but instead all they do is just be sexy and stand around and get captured and things like that. You know, but it's like, in One Piece, everyone's a full character, even if they're also an absolute gag character.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, like, the magic of One Piece. To me, the magic of One Piece is that Oda will take any random character. Like, any random character that you don't think is important, or that is silly or goofy, obviously a joke. Oda's like, I'm going to make you love this weirdo. I'm going to show you the weirdest little guy you've ever seen.
and I'm gonna make you cry.
Like, Oda's constantly like, here's someone that you normally, that, like, just based on first appearances, based on your preconceived whatever, you're not going to take seriously. Like, Senior Pink. Like, here's the thing, right? Senior Pink... Like, but Senior Pink, you know, wasn't, like, we don't originally see him as his, like, sexy man self.
But he is introduced as one of Doflamingo's top people. He is, like, one of his top crew members that should be taken seriously.
And,
like,
he's also not wearing pants. And in fact is wearing, like, a bib and all this sort of stuff. And also all the women around him think he's super sexy. Right? So it's like... You know, but you might say, like, yeah, but he's not sexy. Yeah, to you.
They find him sexy.
They find him sexy. Go fuck yourself. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Sexy is in the eye of the beholder.
I feel like that's...
You know, and then Gunko shows up. And it's like, oh, I can't take her seriously because she's not wearing pants. Frankie's not wearing pants, and you take him seriously. Yeah, but he's not, like, you know, with the government kind of taking him seriously. And it's like, when has one, like, you know that the government also has, like, Garp? Like, Garp's not running around in his underwear.
Also, we were introduced to Frankie as, like, a villain.
Yeah,
you know, like...
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It's like, you know that, like, when we met the Celestial Dragons, they weren't, like, cool. They're, like... They're like, weird and lame, and they're, you know, it's like...
And, like, the Gorosei, like, they look cool, but they're just a bunch of old dudes in a room. Like, we've seen them, like, since. When we were first introduced to them, they're just a bunch of old dudes in a room.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. And then, of course, whenever they got their, like, color, when like, we got, like, people were like, they're not as cool, they're pink.
Yeah.
It's just, like... You know, like One Piece...
Y'all 7? Like...
Right, it's like One Piece has, like, all kinds of weird and outlandish designs. Like, for every... You know, for every one example you can get from One Piece, there's another that's, you know, completely the opposite, or, you know, whatever. You know, like people joke about, like, oh, Oda draws women this one way, and then you go to, like, Amazon Lily, and we see actually, like, such a wide variety of women. You see the, you know, the Charlotte family... And it's just like...
Yeah.
such a menagerie of designs.
Yeah.
And then the same with, like, the Beast Pirates and, like, all these different wacky, weird... Like, the Giraffe Man, he's a giraffe, and then his head is a man.
Yeah.
And just, like... But these are serious people that we have to take seriously because they're actual bad guys. Kaido's not wearing a shirt. Are you telling Kaido he needs to put a shirt on?
Right.
You know? Like... I don't know, man. Are you telling Nami that she needs to put a shirt on because you're fucking Polly?
Yup.
Like, you can do whatever they want. You know, you're talking about Nami. Oh, Nami's cool and she can do whatever she wants. But it's like... But then suddenly... This Gunko's not wearing pants, and suddenly it's Oda.
Right.
You know, it's like we talk about characters as if they're people and, like, their motivations and whatnot. Up until the point that we don't like it, then suddenly it's the author's fault. You know, and then suddenly we're bringing the author back into this, and it's like, oh, well, Nami's just written by the author, too.
Right.
You know, it's I find that, you know, when something's good, it's because it's character motivated. When something's bad, it must be author motivated. Yeah. You know, like... Just wait for us to learn literally anything about this character.
Right.
And also, it's like...
And, like, I don't think it clashes with anything we've seen, like, of her personality, you know?
No.
Like, and stuck up and ruthless, like, you know?
Mm-hmm. You know, it's just one of those things where it's like, again, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And for some people, that means not wearing pants.
Yep.
You know, it's like... Whatever. I don't know. It was just a whole silly thing. It was just the most, like, who cares?
Yeah. I just didn't get it, and I was like, I needed to vent on the podcast for a little bit, so.
Yeah, but we've been rambling pre-podcast for about half an hour now.
The pre-podcast.
It's been going for like half an hour now, so we should probably start getting...
into the epigraphs.
Yeah, unless there's any last things.
I don't think so.
Alright. The epigraphs.
So, we did this one last time, but we'll do it the one before 43.
Mm-hmm.
For all that it disgusts me, I cannot help but be impressed by hemalurgy as an art. In allomancy and feruchemy, skill and subtlety come through the application of one's powers. The best allomancer might not be the most powerful, but instead the one who can most skillfully manipulate the pushes and pulls of metals. The best feruchemist is the one who is most capable of sorting the information in his copper mines, or the most able to manipulate his weight with iron. The art that is unique to hemalurgy is the knowledge of where to place the spikes.
Right. Yeah. I do wonder if we're going to get any sort of... It's hard to imagine we get a fully comprehensive thing on hemalurgy, unless it's, like, fairly simple. Because I think about, like, the pressure points and acupuncture. There's, like, a bajillion.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, I don't know if we're going to get, like... If there's, like, that many sort of, like, hemalurgic spots, or just, like, a handful or whatnot. So, yeah, next one.
Yep.
This is a long one.
Each spike, positioned very carefully, can determine how the recipient's body is changed by hemalurgy. A spike in one place creates a monstrous near mindless beast. In another place, a spike will create a crafty and homicidal inquisitor. Without the instinctive knowledge granted by taking the power at the Well of Ascension, Rorschach would never have been able to use hemalurgy. With his mind expanded, and with a little practice, he was able to intuit where to place spikes that would create the servants that he wanted. It is a little-known fact that the Inquisitor's torture chambers were actually hemalurgic laboratories. The Lord Ruler was constantly trying to develop new breeds of servant. It's a testament to Hemalurgy's complexity that, despite 1,000 years of trying, he never managed to create anything with it beyond the 3 kinds of creatures he developed during those few brief moments holding the power.
Yeah, that is curious, because that goes to answer some of the questions that I had in, like, a previous part, where I was talking about, like, spikes can make, like, you know, it's like giving gifts, like, to... What am I saying? Because it's talking about, like, you can take, like, a hemalurgic spike and put it in, like, a chondra, and it gives them life when you put it in.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, it's like one of the gifts, but if you give one of those gifts to, like, a regular human, like, a couple of them, it becomes a koloss. And I'm like, how? And the answer is, like, it depends on, like, where it's sort of, like, placed in the person. Although with, like, the chondra, it seems like it's probably different because of weird chondra anatomy stuff. So yeah, it's like spikes put in the right place, make a koloss, another place, it makes an inquisitor. But it's like, because like it's talking about the complexity of it makes me think like, there's probably like a whole bunch. Like in acupuncture or whatever, you know, like all the different like pressure points or whatever. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like over 100 or something like that. But it could also just be like, you know, the hands, generically, you know. It's also, we get, like, you know, we also get seemingly, like, kind of accidental cases of it sometimes, like, with spook and whatnot. So it's like, you know, maybe it's not that precise. I don't know. Yeah.
Alright, next one. A man with a given power, such as an allomantic ability, who then gained a hemalurgic spike granting that same power, would be nearly twice as strong as a natural, unenhanced allomancer. An inquisitor who is a seeker before his transformation would therefore have an enhanced ability to use bronze. This simple fact explains how many inquisitors were able to pierce copper clouds.
Yeah. So, like, maybe that's why Vin can do it? Again, I'm always on about her earring.
Yeah.
But, like, it you know, I feel like, because, is it this section that, like, her getting... Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's like... Did last section she get captured? Or...
No, it's in
this section? Yeah. So it's like we get... I feel like there's some hemalurgy going on with her earring. That's my guess.
Got you.
Which I think I talked about...
Yeah, you've talked about it a
little bit before. And I just keep more and more feeling it.
Yeah. All right. Ruin's escape deserves some explanation. This is a thing that even I had a problem understanding. Ruin could not have used the power at the Well of Ascension. It was of preservation. Ruin's fundamental opposite. Indeed, a direct confrontation of these two forces would have caused the destruction of both. However, Ruin's prison was fabricated of that power. Therefore, it was attuned to the power of preservation, the very power of the Well. When that power was released and dispersed rather than utilized, it acted as a key. The subsequent unlocking is what freed Ruin.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so he's basically just trapped in a bunch of unusable power.
Yeah.
Someone else could use it, but he couldn't.
Right, and so then by like dispersing the power,
it just
like disperses the power around him.
That was keeping him in there. Yeah.
Sort of a matter-antimatter kind of thing. If they touch, they would just annihilate. And so it's like he's just surrounded by a thing, and then someone like, oh, let me just take all this and get rid of it. And then he's like, woo, I'm free.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fascinating. So does that mean that would that also kind of mean that they like released preservation into the world? Or is preservation trapped in a container of ruin somewhere? Again, I feel like there's, you know, because they keep ruin and preservation, and ruin was trapped away. So where's preservation? What's preservation like up to, you know?
Was preservation trapped?
I don't know. Maybe it was like out there, but like if it's out there, like why isn't it talking to anybody?
Right.
Yeah. I want to know. I feel like it's all gonna like, you know, it's gonna come together.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because we've talked about like what our next section's gonna be.
Yes. Yeah. We planned out the rest of the book, so we're gonna do 2 more videos, or like 2 more in this book.
Yeah, that's the plan anyway.
Yes.
We'll see how
the current plan
how it turns out if we end up needing to like split something or something. But
yeah, it'll be like a little over 100. Well, it was like 130 pages around.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Like 131 pages each if you divide it exactly in half. Yeah. Because of like how the chapters are, it doesn't go quite that way.
Yeah.
But so it's like we're getting to the Sanderlanche portion.
Yeah.
It's coming up, and I'm Yeah, I'm curious to see how it's all going to come together, because I'm getting that feeling of, like, I have all these pieces, and I can't quite fit them all together, and that's always how it is right before it all kind of, like, comes crashing together.
Yep. All right, before 47. Ruin's prison was not like those that hold men. He wasn't bound by bars. In fact, he could move about freely. His prison, rather, was one of impotence. In the terms of forces and gods, this meant balance. If Ruin were to push, the prison would push back, essentially rendering Ruin powerless. And because much of his power was stripped away and hidden, he was unable to affect the world in any way but the most subtle of ways. I should stop here and clarify something. We speak of Ruin being freed from his prison, but that is misleading. Releasing the power at the well tipped the aforementioned balance in Ruin's direction, but he was still too weak to destroy the world in the blink of an eye as he yearned to do. This weakness was caused by a part of Ruin's power, his very body, having been taken and hidden from him, which is why Ruin became so obsessed with finding the hidden part of his self.
Right. So we get this little tidbit.
Yeah.
in just, like, the fucking epigraphs, and I'm like, oh, well, that's some useful lore to have. And then in the actual chapters themselves, it also, like, comes up.
Yeah.
But my guess is that that's what the trust is.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, my theory, because so far in the Conjure homeland, we know that there is the trust.
Yeah.
And it's like he's standing over the trust.
Yeah.
And all this sort of stuff, and like, you know, spoilers for when we actually get to the chapter by chapter.
Yeah.
They talk about, like, there's, like, a thing where it's like, oh yes, the body, I've hidden it well.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm like, no one, like, knows about the Conjure homeland, really. Like, no one's ever talking about the Conjure homeland. So I feel like the trust is the body, and that's also maybe what's keeping preservation trapped somewhere, or maybe it's unrelated, but my guess is that the trust is that they have been entrusted with keeping this hidden.
Yeah.
But that could be... It could be something completely different.
Yeah.
You know, but that's my guess currently.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Once freed, Ruin was able to let's try that again. Once freed, Ruin was able to affect the world more directly. The most obvious way he did this was by making the ash mounts emit more ash and the earth begin to break apart. As a matter of fact, I believe that much of Ruin's energy during those last days was dedicated to these tasks. He was also able to affect and control far more people than before, where he had once influenced only a few select individuals. He could now direct entire Koloss armies.
Yeah. He's you know, whatever gender means to Ruin and preservation. Always coming back to that. Always bringing that up. Especially because I started playing Tyranny.
Yeah.
Again. I've never gotten very far in Tyranny at all, but my friend loves Tyranny, and so I've been giving it a shot. In the game, it really does, like, a good job. Like if you know, there's a whole thing, sort of going back to some of the talking point that we were having before. This is really derailing things. It's such a tangent for hearing the epigraphs of all places. Just like, you're talking to these, like, soldiers. They're called the Disfavored, and they're all wearing these, like, uniforms. And it's just like, yeah, and this one's a woman. And it just looks exactly the same as any of the other ones. And then it's like, and then here's the Iron Marshal, who's, like, head, and that's also a woman. But also, just from the armor, it's not, like, sort of feminized armor in the way that we normally sort of, like, think of, like, female fantasy armor.
Right.
It's like, you would, you know, the sort of societal prejudgment that you would make looking at this character design is that is a man.
Yeah.
But it's just like, nope, that's a woman. There she is. and you know, I feel like the game, especially with the Disfavored, they're all sort of uniform in that way.
Yeah.
Because of their sort of, like, fascist nature.
Yeah.
All of them they're uniformed soldiers, but they also they care about each other so much. We all care so much about each other and nobody else.
Yeah.
It's great. Meanwhile, the Scarlet Chorus do not have, like, a set uniform and armor, but, like, a lot of the women have, like, shaved heads and stuff like that. Sort of like the way sort of traditional gender norms are sort of played with in this fantasy setting, where you don't have to sort of abide by the sort of thing. So, like, I almost wonder, like, because some of that kind of gender norm stuff still sort of exists in One Piece.
Yeah.
People sort of have a certain expectation.
Yeah.
But it's also, like, while it kind of exists because you do have characters like Polly.
Right.
It's still, like, Nami walks around in a bikini top, 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And Nami literally gets changed in front of the Galley Law members on the sea train, and is seemingly completely unbothered by the fact. Because she...
Yeah, the only reason... She pretended to be shy about it when she was trying to steal the Mary.
Right, yeah.
But that's it.
Yep, yeah, because I also think about, like... Because, like, in Wano, when they're in, like, the bathhouse, her, like, towel drops and she gets, like, embarrassed about it. But that's also a matter of, like, choice versus accident or whatever. But also she, like, flashes them in, like, the bathhouse at Alabasta. Right. It's, like... It's... And that's very much just how Nami is, and you don't know that's not how...
Right.
It's... You're allowed to have fun.
Right.
Anyway, just the whole Ruin being him and like the Khandra having gender and it's just sort of like the ways in which people's like assumptions about gender can sort of just like pop up in media, where it's just like, of course the Khandra have men and women, even though they're literally just sentient blobs of flesh.
Yeah.
It's like, But, from what I understand, Sanderson gets kind of better about that in the future. Not that this is necessarily, like, a problem that Khandra have gender in this way. But it's just always, like, interesting to look at, since, like, gender is very much something that we think about.
Right.
Yeah. But yes, that's all.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there was something more relevant I could have said about the epigraph, but...
I think that's that one. One might ask why Ruin couldn't have used Inquisitors to release him from his prison. The answer to this is simple enough, if one understands the workings of power. Before the Lord Ruler's death, he maintained too tight a grip on the Inquisitors to let Ruin control them directly. Even after the Lord Ruler's death, however, such a servant of Ruin could never have rescued him. The power in the well was of preservation, and an Inquisitor could only have taken it by first removing his hemalurgic spikes. That, of course, would have killed him. Thus, Ruin needed a much more indirect way to achieve this purpose. He needed someone he hadn't tainted too much, but someone he could lead by the nose, carefully manipulating.
Right, it's like, because Ruin and preservation are, like, opposite, and hemalurgy is the power of Ruin, and since the Inquisitors are only being kept alive by the power of hemalurgy, and they would need to remove all of their hemalurgy stuff. See, that maybe complicates my... Well, so not tainted too much. Yeah. Maybe they're just, like, too hemalurgied. Because, like, Vin, when she goes in there, she has her earring in. And, like, that... And I'm still on Vin earring theory.
Yeah.
I'm Vin earring theory, and I don't even know what it is. I don't know what Vin earring theory is, other than just, like, Vin plus earring plus hemalurgy equals question mark. Profit? Yeah.
I love it. Alright. One can see Ruin's craftiness and the maliciousness of his planning. He managed to orchestrate the downfall of the Lord Ruler only a short time before Preservation's power returned to the Well of Ascension. And then, less than 2 years later, he had freed himself. On the scale of gods and their power, this tricky timing was as precise as an expert incision performed by the most talented of surgeons. Once Ruin was free from his prison, he was able to influence people more strongly, but impaling someone with a hemalurgic spike was difficult no matter the circumstances. To achieve such things, he apparently began with people who already had a tenuous grip on reality. Their insanity made them more open to his touch, and he could use them to spike more stable people. In any case, it's impressive how many important people Ruin managed to spike. King Penrod, ruling Luthadel at the time, is a good example of this.
Yeah, because that's where we ended
The last section.
The last section was with Penrod getting spiked.
Yeah.
And so then this talking about that, which very much is like, this is a future text.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, all kind of throughout it. It's,
It very much, like, makes it clear. Which, on the one hand, it's like, well, I mean, we make it through, whatever that means, you know. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Curious.
Near the end, the ash began to pile up in frightening amounts. I've spoken of the microbes the Lord Ruler devised to help the world deal with the ash falls. They did not really feed on ash. Rather, they broke it down as an aspect of their metabolic functions. Volcanic ash is good for soil, depending on what one wishes to grow. Too much of anything, however, is deadly. Water is necessary for survival, yet too much will drown. During the history of the Final Empire, the land balanced on the very knife edge of disaster via the ash. The microbes broke it down as rapidly as it fell, but when there was so much of it that it oversaturated the soil, it became more difficult for plants to survive. In the end, the entire system fell apart. Ash fell so steadily that it smothered and killed, and the world's plant life died off. The microbes had no chance of keeping up, for they needed time and nutrients to reproduce.
Yeah. I feel like microbe is one of those that, like, when people talk about, like, sort of modern terms, kind of taking them out of it, it's like, it, on the one hand, because I'm willing to sort of accept it, because, like, this seems to be knowledge that, like, Vin got from the well, you know, knowledge about, like, what Rashek did and whatnot, because she had, like, the power for a little bit, and she kind of, like, had, like, an expanded view for things. So the idea that, like, oh, we kind of know about these microbes now because of that.
Yeah.
But, like, using the term microbe does just kind of, like, shock me at first whenever it first comes up, you know. But now it's kind of like, it's like, oh, you know, like, it kind of makes sense, but it's like, there've been, so, like, a little bit more, like, so like, we've never really, you know, it's like, we know this because of talking to Vin, but, like, here's what a microbe is. You know? There's, like, a little bit of explanation as to what we mean by microbe here. You know? And it's like, did they just already have a pre-existing term for something like a microbe? In, you know, whatever hypothetical language that they speak, you know? Him sort of talking about, like, oh, what you're writing is, like, a translation of whatever, because that comes from, like, Tolkien being like, oh, yes, it's like, I have translated this text, essentially, and, it's sort of his excuse for, like, oh, you can say Ottoman, even though there's no Ottoman Empire, because, like, it's just, you know what that means. And it's like, you know, this is us translating it from whatever hypothetical language they technically speak on this planet.
Right.
But I'm like, but, like, if you're really thinking about what translation means, because you're a linguistics nerd like me, it's like, what do you mean you just micro? It's like, oh yeah, I translated this text and I got the word microbe, and I'm like, whoa. Microbe? That's very specific. That's like a scientific term. Yeah. So that's just kind of one of the funny things. It's like, it doesn't really bother me, like, so much, but whenever I first heard it, I was really like, what?
Yeah, there is some of that, like, word choice kind of stuff. But yeah, like, I don't... I'm having a hard time figuring out what I can say here.
Stuff you want to say, but... Because, like, we're getting close to the end here. And also, you know more, like, you know, even just, like...
But yeah, just having, like, the kind of, like, information from the power, supposedly, or whatever, kind of...
Right, because also it's, like, I still don't
kind of getting it from that, or whatever, is kind of often how the kind of modern word choice, that type of thing, shows up.
Right.
Basically.
Right. Yeah, because, like, listening to it... Like, listening to the, like, actual audiobook, it sounds kind of like he's doing Sazed voice. For these. But also, it's like, unfortunately, I'm the hero of ages, so it's like, is this Vin? Like, who's writing these? Where are these coming from? I don't quite know. And just, like, I don't know. Because, like, there's so much... It's like, we're getting so close to the end of, like, Mistborn, but then it's like, Mistborn Era 1. But then there's still, like, Era 2, and then there's still, like, wider Cosmere stuff. That's, like, you know, you go back and you reread with, like, wider Cosmere knowledge, and you're like, oh, this, that, and the other thing. And so, like, I don't even know, like, what things are going to be, like, relevant for this book. And what things are going to be also on top of that, relevant for future stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like what thing that's just like, oh, that's a neat little just like world building detail that like in Era 2 or Cosmere broadly is going to end up being like, and this was it was this guy all along. Hoyd, I know that one, but like, what was Hoyd doing there?
Yeah.
Hoyd's, you know, he shows up in the first book and in this book.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I recognize
but Ben gets a bad feeling.
But Ben's like, vibes are wrong, and leaves. What's up with that, huh? What'd your observation hockey pick up on?
Tell you about Hoyd.
Tell you about Hoyd. Your spidey senses were like, no. I almost, like, there's a part of me that's almost like, someone or something was just like, no.
Yeah.
And she was like, I picked up on it. Also, it's like in Nen, it's like Hunter x Hunter, with like Nen, where it's like, the like, can't walk down the hallway because blasting them with Nen.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, Vin's gonna go, and it's like, no, never mind. I'm picking up.
Hoyd just blasts her with hostile Nen.
Yes. Hostile Nen, Conqueror's hockey, you know.
That's really funny.
Yeah. See, it's great because I also, like, I know some about Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah.
We should watch more Hunter x Hunter. We should watch more a lot of things. We still haven't, like, we've made, like...
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I don't know.
Do you know which one I'm about to say?
Critical Role?
Yes. Yes. You know?
Yeah, I figured.
Because, like,
we have, like, an hour left or something.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 hours left.
In, like, the last episode.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we've been watching the last episode for, like, a while now.
Time.
Because we'll, like, watch a little bit of it, and then a little bit more. Yeah. And we restarted Magnus, and then we didn't even get that far into it.
We watched it twice.
So yeah. Mm-hmm. There's so much Magnus. I'm like, we're never going to get to season 5 again.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read this next one?
Yes.
All right. The pact between preservation and ruin is a thing of gods and is difficult to explain in human terms. Indeed, initially there was a stalemate between them. On one hand, each knew that only by working together could they create. On the other hand, both knew that they would never have complete satisfaction in what they created. Preservation would not be able to keep things perfect and unchanging, and ruin would not be able to destroy completely. Of course, Ruin eventually acquired the ability to end the world and gain the satisfaction he wanted, but then that wasn't originally part of the bargain.
Yeah, so it's like, so again, what's preservation doing?
Mm-hmm.
What's preservation up to? And also it's like, they made a pact because they can only create things by working together. Why does Ruin want to create things? Because like we know that like Ruin can create one thing in order to knock down two others. So it's like, what was Ruin wanting to create in order to destroy? Was it just like, there is nothing, and if there is nothing, then there's nothing to destroy, so he wants to create something so that he can destroy it? Maybe?
Yeah.
You know, what's up with that?
Yeah. I like the just like the line of preservation would not be able to keep things perfect and unchanging. Mm-hmm. Just like thinking about the Lord Ruler and like his relationship to preservation and how he ran his like it's just
his was sort of like in trying to create a world without. Like, trying to save the world from ruin, he creates sort of a perverted version of preservation. Yeah. Or not even this is like pure preservation.
Right, because I wouldn't say it's necessarily perverted.
Right, it's like, just sort of like, that was the wrong way to put it, but sort of, you know, pure preservation is also bad. You need balance. You know, you need to bring balance to the force, not just have the light side. It's always, the light side's the good side. Even though the whole thing is always balanced in the force, but whatever.
But preservation just for preservation isn't necessarily, you know.
But I just kind of like that. Exactly how it is. Forever.
And I think there's like some bits in like the Lord Ruler's like cache like in this bit or whatever that I think we can kind of come back to this.
Gotcha. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it in those terms.
Just him talking about like him caring about the people, but like his. It'll be better, I think, when we can just like look at it and stuff. But I feel like there's some interesting things there
because it's conservative. You're conserving the thing. You're preserving it exactly how it is. You're not allowing for growth and change and improvement and stuff like that. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
But I've been kind of waiting for this like line kind of talking a bit more about preservation's kind of desires.
Yeah. All right, so that's it for the epigraphs then?
Yep.
Alrighty. Chapter 43.
So we are with Vin, and they think that Yeoman's Mistborn is following them, or whatever. They're like going to the that ball or whatever they were talking about.
Oh, right. Oh. Where they're like, we're going to go to the ball and try and Vin's going to try and sneak into...
The cache.
The cache, right, because this ball...
And he's doing a distraction, like Ellen's supposed to distract.
Yes, Ellen's supposed to distract, and like, the ball is actually being held at, like, the canton the canton building. Because they get there and it's like, this place really isn't like designed for balls.
The Canton of Resource.
Yes, the Canton of Resource, right? Because that's where like the caches are. And so it's like, Ellen's gonna cause a distraction and she's gonna try and sneak there. And they have a whole thing about like, Vin being like, trust me, just run.
So first they're kind of talking about her like staying up all night, like worrying about assassins and stuff, like on pewter, and then like then she's like, Ellen, I need you to promise me something. Eventually I'm gonna get spotted. I'll sneak as best I can, but I doubt we'll get through this without creating a disturbance. When it hits, I want you to get out. And then he's like, no, and she's like, you gotta do it, trust me, and he's like, fine.
Yep. It's a whole thing. We're setting up how the plan's gonna go, which of course means that the plan cannot go exactly as planned. Ellen will just cause a distraction, and then Vin will just sneak in there, and it'll be fine. It'll all go.
And then they'll just get out, and no issues.
No issues, there might be some issues, nothing like major or anything. Nothing we can't deal with, nothing we can't handle.
Not gonna be captured for days.
No, never. And so they go to the party. They dance a little bit, right?
I think that they think about it, but they're like, there's not time.
Right, and so they just like immediately kind of split up.
Yeah, they're like, there's not time for it this time. They kind of walk through and like look around and are like, this place isn't really set up for a party like this, and that type of stuff.
But there's more like hallways and rooms and stuff. Like it's a bit more, instead of like a big ballroom, there's like more sort of like smaller rooms that people are at.
And Vin's also a bit like put off that she doesn't feel like they're being taken seriously enough, because she's like looking around and she's like, I don't see people following us really, like what's going on. And then she sees the Allomancers like kind of like listening to her or whatever, and relaying information for a while.
Right, they're sort of like surreptitiously like following around, but like trying to look as if they're just be politely going from person to person, sort of around, but not close enough that it's super suspicious, but, they're using allomancy to, like, listen in. And so then Vin, like, quickly, like, goes somewhere, they follow, and then very quickly, like, and, like, immediately, like, leaves, but they have to kind of, like, in order to not be suspicious, not immediately follow. And so she goes and, like, talks to Tolkien.
To Slow Swift.
He's fully Tolkien now.
Because I told you
you told me that, and so now I don't remember him as Slow Swift. It's just Tolkien. She goes and talks to Tolkien for a little bit, and so like it gets some help of some sort. Like he's like some folks will
like
help
some of
you.
his men or whatever.
Will like help her out or something.
I need 2 men, ones you trust against yeomen. Because she needs them to help hide the girls she knocks out.
Yes, because she like, gets the 2 ladies, sort of gets them to follow her somewhere, and then knocks them out, and then is like, keep them hidden.
Yeah. There's also like a little bit where we hear kind of more of the Reen dialogue in her head, and her thinking like how far she's come. She's like thinking about Elend. You shouldn't have relied on him for the distraction, Reen whispered in her mind. He'll fail. Never let your life depend on the competence of someone whose life isn't also on the line. It had been one of Reen's favorite sayings. She didn't think of him often anymore, or really anyone from her old life. That life had been one of pain and sorrow, a brother who beat her to keep her safe, a crazy mother who had inexplicably slaughtered Vin's baby sister. Now that life was a faint echo. She smiled to herself, amused at how far she'd come.
Yeah, what's up with that? Yeah, cause now anytime Reen's talking, I have so many thoughts. And then again, the mom kills the baby. Yeah. And then she has the earring. I'm like, it's heme allergy. Yeah. I feel like it has to be. And then if she's heme allergied and hearing Reen, like, what does that mean? Yeah. You know. And then yeah, and it's like, look at how far I've come. Mm-hmm. It's going so well. Oh no. Yeah.
But she really has come far, like, really emotionally in that way.
Like, genuinely.
Like, even though there's, like, that stuff going on, like, she really...
Right, it's just one of those things where it's like, wow, everything's so great right before things go bad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so she, like, attacks them. She did, like, a full blank out of their emotions.
Right,
or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And,
hit him with the depression wave.
Yeah, that, and then choked the other girl out.
Yeah, just straight up choked her.
Yeah, and then she's like, stash these two in the bushes.
Right, because the other one was a copper cloud, right?
Yeah.
And you can't use emotional allomancy on someone who's burning copper.
Yeah. She just,
chokes her. It's great. And it's like, hide these. Yeah. Hide these two.
Yep, and then Ellen's distraction.
Yep.
We go over to Elend, and he's basically just antagonizing Yeoman as the distraction.
Right, and there's like he's playing the mini game, and in the mini game, something that increases favor with the crowd.
Yes,
decreases favor with Yeoman. Anything that actually gets Yeoman interested loses the crowd, and you have to balance those 2 meters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm playing again. I'm playing Tyranny, and it's like you have this favored and the Scarlet Chorus, and you can turn on a thing that lets you show like whether or not a dialogue option is going to grant you favor or lose you favor with them, which is nice for me because I love having information.
Yep.
And so often it'll be like, grant favor with one and lose favor with the other. Well, gain wrath with the other. Because technically, you never lose anything. It's like you gain favor or you gain wrath. And they're two like parallel things, which is an interesting way to do it. But anyway, so it's like, gain some favor with the Scarlet Chorus, gain some wrath with disfavored, gain some wrath with the disfavored, gain some, gain some favor with the Scarlet Chorus, gain wrath with the disfavored. And so it's like, do something that the crowd will find interesting. The Yeoman gets less interested in having this argument with you. Get Yeoman actually interested in having this argument with you. It's a more dry topic that loses the audience, so they don't really care as much.
But Elend is interested.
Elend is interested. He's like, the thing is that the stuff that me and Yeoman actually find interesting,
the crowd doesn't.
The crowd doesn't, because it's too academic and dry. But the stuff that the crowd finds interesting, Yeoman's just kind of bored by. And then also Yeoman starts to sort of kind of realize it's like Ellen's just kind of like not being consistent in his argument. He's just kind of arguing to argue and to like, drag it on and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which is suspicious,
Also, Yeoman says he doesn't have any Mistborn.
Mm-hmm.
And Elend doesn't believe him.
Right, because Vin was like...
Yeah.
He's like, there's a Mistborn and chased.
Yeah.
And all that jazz, which, because... How does this chapter end?
It's just like you have your distraction, Vin, and then we continue... Actually, we go back to Vin before we get to the rest of his conversation with Yeoman.
Gotcha. So this chapter just ends with Elend giving his, doing his distraction.
Yeah, he's kind of starting his distraction. He has a bit of his discussion with Yeoman, but it's not the bulk of it.
Right. Gotcha. So is there anything else for chapter 43 that we want to talk about? Because most of this chapter is just sort of like, setting it up with like the party and getting the plan ready and,
I think I'm probably good for this chapter.
Getting the plan just kind of like moving. Alrighty. Chapter 44?
Yep.
Yeah. And so
we are back with Vin.
Mm-hmm.
And she's sneaking around the Canton of Resource and is like looking for
looking for the cash.
Yeah. She's just kind of thinking about it's like sneaking in and all of that, and another line from Reen, your trust will get you killed someday.
Right.
And all of that in her head.
Yeah.
She's just kind of thinking like she's got to do this pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then finds it, and is wondering why it kind of like looks weird.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like broken open instead of like pushed open.
Yeah.
And then we go back to Ellen for his conversation with Yeoman. So here's the bulk of his conversation with Yeoman.
Gotcha, where he's doing the thing that I was talking about.
Yeah,
because she sort of like gets to the door and instead of it being like open normally, it's like broken open, which is odd because it's like, well, if they had, if they did have like a Mistborn who had like Duralumin, should be able to like get it open.
Like, pull it, yeah.
So it's like, why'd they have to like break it open?
Yeah.
And then we get the Ellen stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Where he's having to sort of like argue back and forth.
Yeah.
And keep it going.
Yeah.
Keep the crowd engaged and Yeoman engaged at the same time.
Yeah. Ellen smiled. It had been a long time since he'd had such a good argument. Ham never delved deeply into topics. He enjoyed philosophical questions, but not scholarly debates. And Seiza didn't like to argue.
Right.
I wish I could have met Yeoman when I was younger, when I had time to simply worry about philosophy. Oh, the discussions we could have had. Of course, those discussions probably would have ended up with Ellen in the hands of the Steel Inquisitors for being a revolutionary.
Right.
I just like that kind of, that little bit where he's like, I wish we could have talked when I was younger. We couldn't have actually talked when I was younger because,
Yep.
But it's just
Yeah, it's really fun. It's like, man, in another life, in another time.
Yep. And then Yeoman's like, where's Empress Venture or whatever, and so then right, because Ellen attacks him.
Oh yeah, he does. I really forgot about that. Why does he do that?
Yeah, because he's like, well, I don't have another chance, and I should see if he's a Mistborn.
Oh yeah. Very 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 Vin thinking there.
Yeah, he's trying to figure out if he's a Mistborn, and then he fights interestingly.
Yes. Yes.
So he's not using pushes or pulls or anything like that, but then there's a
because he uses the like fool's ATM or whatever, or he's using ATM and then because like he uses ATM and then Ellen uses
Electrum.
Yeah.
Yep.
That like turns off or is it Mal? Because there's also Mal ATM, so I don't remember. What's Mal ATM?
Mal ATM, I believe, is ATM.
What? Because there's like Electrum, but there's also like Mal ATM. I think someone talked about that, and it's like, yeah, the thing that like there's one that makes ATM not work.
Mal ATM is ATM in gold.
And what does that one do?
It sees past.
Sees the past.
It's the 11th metal.
Oh, right.
It's the 11th
yes,
metal.
That's right.
Is the 11th
That's right. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm like, what the fuck did Malatium do? It was...
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. And Electrum makes it so that ATM doesn't work on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. So
It gives himself a bubble of false ATM images.
Yes. And...
Yeah, and so Ellen goes, he's burning ATM, that means he's a Mistborn.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if so, why wasn't he doing any of the other stuff?
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know if that actually makes him a Mistborn, or if he's just like been like hemalurgied or something.
Yeah.
hemalurgy to be able to use atium or something like that, which would be an interesting one.
Yeah.
That bead of atium isn't hanging; it's embedded into his forehead, and now he can use atium. I don't know. Yeah, because like just something about it seems off.
Yeah.
It's like he did use atium, but like we now know that there's like methods other than just being a normal Mistborn or Mistang that lets you use stuff like that.
Yeah.
Through the introduction of like hemalurgy and stuff. So it's like I don't know. I have my doubts that he's actually a Mistborn, but maybe he is, and I'm just overthinking it.
Yep. So then Elend like escapes. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so then 3 hours later, he's like, Vin's not back, and they realize something's wrong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, then they get a message from Yeoman. Pretender Venture. I have her, as you've probably guessed. There's one thing I've always noted about Mistborn. To a man, they are overconfident. Thank you for the stimulating conversation. I'm glad I was able to keep you distracted for so long. Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah, ouch.
Yup.
It's like, it feels bad. Feels bad, man.
Yup.
Oh, you just read that and you're like, no!
Yup.
No! Yeah.
So then we jump back to Vin, and she's been trying to get the door open and realizes he's removed the metal plate, so she can't push or pull the door.
Yeah, because it's like the door was busted because they fully like removed the plate, and then they like trapped her inside when she went in there.
Yep, and she has some canned food that she's kind of able to get open with pewter and stuff. He didn't leave her any tools or anything.
Yep. Didn't leave her any tools. She's able to get them open with pewter, but she's only got so much pewter.
Yep. And
only, therefore, so much food that she can access.
Yep. Yeah, and then she feels elementic pulses and is like there's a
Mistborn in here, maybe?
Yeah.
And then, is this when we get...
And then she recognized his face. Reen!
And I sent you, like, a text being like, fucking Reen?
It was great. I was at work, and then I got these,
a series of texts. Because, like, I sent you a text, and then, like, it immediately goes on to the next chapter. Yeah. And so I send even more texts.
Yeah, what do you mean Reen's here? And then I just sent a tongue out emoji. What the fuck's going on here? He's the Mist Spirit? He pulses like the Well of Ascension? The fuck? Ruin? I knew it! The voice was Ruin! Current theory, the trusted Ruin's body.
Yep,
was the text that I got while
Yep. So those were my I was at work, you were at work, I'm listening to it, and I'm just like, what do you mean Reen's here? What do you mean?
But yeah. So then we go to chapter 45.
Yes. 45.
So she kind of has like a bit of a like thought of like kind of everything coming back to her, and then realizing like, she's not afraid, like, and sort
of like the sort of traumatic, like remembering,
like Reen, and like just like him being there and all of that. And then just like, and yet tempering those moments was an insight. She was no longer the young girl who had borne her beatings in confused silence. Looking back, she could see the fear Reen had shown in the things he'd done. He'd been terrified that his half-breed Allomancer's sister would be discovered and slaughtered by the Steel Inquisitors. He'd beaten her when she made herself stand out. He'd yelled at her when she was too competent. He'd moved her when he feared that the Canton of Inquisition had caught their trail. Reen had died protecting her. He had taught her paranoia and distrust out of a twisted sense of duty, for he believed that was the only way she would survive on the streets of the Final Empire. And she'd stayed with him enduring the treatment. Inside, not buried all that deeply, she'd known something very important. Reen had loved her.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like he does care, but he's just like got this like fucked up way of going about it.
And they were both children. Like thinking back, it's horrible, and like
right,
the like trauma and stuff that she feels is real, but you know.
Yeah, it's when
they were also both.
They were both children, and he, you know, is not sort of emotionally mature enough to handle this correctly.
Yep.
And all that. And in some ways, I sort of think about, like, Reen in comparison to, like, the Lord Ruler. Mm-hmm. Because the Lord Ruler, whenever we get sort of his little, like, perspective things on, like, the slabs and whatnot, he's like...
A lot of stuff is done out of fear.
Yeah, it's done out of fear, and also, like, he's like, yes, I want to protect everyone, preserve them, I care about them, but in this, like, really toxic, quote, tough love kind of way. That's just, like, you know, that makes everyone hate you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, yeah, you cared, but you were real shitty about it.
Yeah.
You know, even if you do genuinely, like, care, you know, you sort of went about it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so then she realizes it's not actually Reen because it looks like him, but it's not his eyes.
Yeah.
And so she is convinced it's a Kandra for like a minute, and she's like questioning, like
asking like Kandra pointed questions and stuff like that, and being like, you must be a Kandra. Where'd you get his bones? All this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's just like, no.
Yeah, so then she tries to control it like a Kandra, and then she can't. And then she goes, then it's, the failed emotional allomancy meant that he wasn't a Kandra. But he wasn't Reen either. There seemed only one logical course to follow. She attacked. I just love her. I love that.
It's like, well, I don't know what the fuck's going on, so attack time.
So this is not Reen, and it's not a Kandra, so I can't just, like, get information, whatever. Okay, I don't know what, you go away, no.
So then I started blasting.
Exactly. Not safe.
Nope. Danger.
Oh, I love her.
Yep.
But, so, like, there's kind of just this little half-fight sequence of her chasing him around, and he's always just, like, one step ahead, and she's trying to kind of figure that out. And then realizes that it is the mist spirit that led her to the well and everything.
Yeah. And it's Ruin.
Yep. And then, why have you come here? Laughter. I should have known you wouldn't be fooled, a kindly voice said in her head.
Yeah.
The thing's voice.
Right. Yeah. Because she's been hearing Reen's voice all this time, and now we actually get confirmation that this is Ruin, right?
Or
is it just heavily implied to be?
I think it does. So, she. What do you want? She whispered. You know what I want. You've always known. And she did. She sensed it in the moment she had touched the thing, Ruin. It had very simple desires. To see the world come to its end. I will stop you. And then it starts to call it Ruin. And, it's pretty... Yeah, then he says, because he kind of explains his nature. You are an enemy. You seek to end the things I love. And is an ending always bad? Must not all things, even worlds, someday end? There's no need to hasten the end, no reason to force it. All things are subject to their own nature. You cannot blame me for being what I am. Without me, nothing would end. Nothing could end, and therefore nothing could grow. I am life. Would you fight life itself? Do not mourn because the time of this world's end has arrived. That end was ordained from the very moment of this world's conception. There is a beauty in death, a beauty of finality, the beauty of completion. For nothing is truly complete until the day it is at last destroyed.
Yep, and that was all very interesting. Like, I really enjoyed hearing that stuff sort of like from Ruin.
Yeah.
There in that chapter, like, because you get the sort of, like, the idea that, like, Ruin and preservation need to be sort of in balance rather than, you know, it's like there's good aspects to Ruin as well as bad aspects to preservation. It's not just clearly good and evil, one versus the other. And so this
that's why I like so much that the Lord Ruler is associated so much with preservation.
Right.
It's such an interesting, like, because we have, like, the big bad of like, this book being, like, Ruin and stuff. I like that, like, the kind of, like...
Yeah.
You also have preservation as the bad guy in, like, the first book.
Right.
In a way.
Yeah, because the Lord Ruler is, you know, not God, but like a part of God, the sliver of infinity.
Yeah. It could be like a sliver of preservation.
Right, you know, and that's interesting. But I was right. Reen. It's Reen was ruined. All you gotta do is,
Because there's another, like, explicit where he goes into Reen's voice in her head and goes, "When you're alone, no one can betray you." A voice whispered in the back of her head, Reen's voice. Mm-hmm. And she had taken it for granted that the voice was merely a part of her psyche, something left over from Reen's teaching, an instinct.
Yep. So suddenly it's like... Suddenly going back to all the times that Reen's talking in her head. Because I said for a long time, I'm like, there's something up with the whole...
Yeah. I tried to point them out, not too often, but like just, when they were around a lot and stuff.
Yep, it's ruined.
Yep.
And so it makes me, like, want to go back and be like...
It's fun.
Because I'm like, sometimes it seems like the Reen voice is, like, pushing her... in a direction.
Yeah.
And it's like... Because, like, now whenever Reen's like, oh, you shouldn't have let Ellen do that or whatever, it's like, is that reverse psychology? Because now that Ruin knows that she's gonna not listen to the Reen voice and, in fact, maybe do the opposite, he's saying those things to get her to do the opposite thing so that... Yeah. And also, if it's the Mist Spirit, why did it try and kill Ellen... so that she would use the power on him instead of freeing what's...
Right.
And then why'd it give him the Allomancy power? Unless it's, like, a different, separate Mist Spirit? But, like, what's that about?
Yeah.
Like, that makes that even more confusing to me now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on? But, like, the Reen stuff, I'm like, how much of it is, like... Is it like, does Ruin want her to be listening to the Reen voice? Or now that it knows that she's definitely not going to listen to the Reen voice, telling her to sort of reverse psychologying her, you know?
Yeah.
Like, was it that way from the beginning? What's the story? Because also at the end of the first book, the Reen voice, doesn't the Reen voice actually tell her, like, to go to Ellen? Or does it say for her to leave Ellen and she stays? I don't remember exactly.
I think to not trust Ellen, I believe, is what... what it said. I don't remember immediately.
Yeah, because it was in, like, the epilogue or whatever. It's, like, a little bit there.
It's falling apart book here.
So
this Final Empire book has just sections falling out.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think it says go back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, so it's like, no, it doesn't want her to go back to Ellen. I can't do this other person with him. That's not me. It was an illusion, not a dream. I'm that child. I deserve him. Oh, no, it's back and forth.
Yeah.
This seems to be like her thought.
Right.
Yeah, then in Reen's voice, go back. Yeah, so go back to Ellen.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so. The end of this book, Reen tells her to go back to Ellen, and then she does. But then, like... Later, I remember being like, so then, like, why is... Because I remember having some thoughts, then, like, reading in the later books when the Reen voice comes up and is telling her some of the shit, like, but Reen voice, didn't you just say, like, to go back to him? So why are you being this way now?
Yeah, that could not be Ruin.
Yeah. Like, that one's actually just genuinely, like...
Yeah, but it did say a whispered voice comes from the back of her mind, which normally does... mean Ruin.
Yeah, so it's like what's Ruin, trying to accomplish exactly with the whole Reen voice thing sometimes is sort of part of my, like, questions, It's one of those things, like, going back and rereading, and, like, looking at all the stuff that the Reen voice says could be very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not certain right now.
Yeah. I just just thoughts about the Reen voice and how and in what way Ruin is trying to sort of manipulate her, what direction Ruin wants her to go, and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like once I guess like,
I have some ideas now actually.
I have some ideas too because it's like now that she's killed the Lord Ruler, it's like. Ruin probably wants her to stick around because Ruin wants her to find the Well of Ascension.
Right, wants her to free him, so that's the best chance is with
Ellen there in Luthadel as opposed to, like...
rest of the...
As opposed to, like, going off and, like, running away again.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also... a little bit more of Ruin talking here. Anyone will betray you, Ben, the voice said, repeating a bit of advice it commonly gave. As it spoke, it slowly slid from Reen's voice into that of Ruin, anyone. I have always been with you. You've heard me in your mind since your first years of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The earring, because the earring, you've been hearing him, because also the Spook got heme allergy, and so now he's hearing ruined, just like, you know, it's a whole thing. And so the earring.
Yep. All right, that is chapter 45.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go on to 46?
Yes. Yes, 46.
Yep. So we are with Sazed.
I feel like this episode title is going to be something about earring theory. I don't know.
Theory, yeah.
Going crazy about earring theory.
That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. So they're kind of just chilling after Spook's whole superhero craziness last time. They're waiting for Spook to come back. Like Ariane, Breeze, Sazed, and them. They're just kind of, you know, talking and being like, "What's going on? Have we been ignoring Spook?"
Yeah, it's like we haven't been ignoring Spook too much, and now he's, you know what happens when you ignore a young boy for too long. He ends up becoming a minor
religious figure.
Yes.
Is that what happened to Kelsier?
Yeah, I mean, you know, they ignored him for too long by putting him in the pits. I don't know. And again, and see, then there's also questions because people are like, Kelsier changed when he was in the pits. Did Kelsier get his shit from heme allergy somehow or something? Would that make any sense? Because like a bunch of people die down in the pits.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, would that even make sense? Like, is it some other thing? I don't know. Because it's like, oh, wouldn't he have snapped earlier or something? Oh, no, Kelsier changed when he was down. This sort of talk. Is that just, like, superstition? Is that just, like, you know, or you know, could there be some sort of weird answer to to where his power came from? I don't know. It's like, now that there's, like, multiple avenues by which someone can gain allomantic power, it's like, suddenly the doors are open to more shenanigans and fuckery.
Yep.
Shenanigans and fuckery is also just a good title. Yes. Maybe not for this one, but just in general, shenanigans and fuckery. But then you have to like censor it in the title, you know.
Yeah. And so they're kind of debating, like, has he just been a Mistborn this whole time and been hiding it? Like, what is going on? Like, this is like talking about Spook. They're like, what's
right
up?
Yeah, it's like, what's up with Spook,
you know? And more of Sazed kind of just thinking about his metal mines and like stuff like that.
Because he has like a conversation with Breeze or something about his like religious stuff, I think.
First he's like kind of thinking about it. This isn't the conversation yet, but because he's like, I made a promise to myself that I will not allow myself to become a hypocrite or whatever, and like use his metal mines or whatever.
Right.
Because he's kind of constructed this whole kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so then he's kind of going through another religion. He talks about the tenets of the Nelazen people who worshipped the god Trell. Sazed has always been partial to this religion because it's focused on learning and study of mathematics and the heavens. They knew a great deal about astronomy, but he does not like their teachings on the afterlife. Yeah. What good was a religion without answers? Why believe in something if the response to half of his questions was ask Trell and he will answer?
I mean, yeah. I feel you. I feel you say that.
So,
Yeah.
So then we end up switching over to Spook.
Gotcha. And what's Spook up to?
He is meeting with Beldre. He went to go talk to her again in the garden at the citizens' place.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that bit.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what they're...
He's basically like, why are you sad? Come with us. Basically. And she's like, no, like, I don't... And he's basically like, I can tell you're sad because you don't like the killing. And she's like, well, you don't like it either, and I'm going to call the guards. So get out of here so you don't have to kill, basically.
Yeah. And then the guards get called, and he runs off. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's basically like, I'm going to overthrow your brother, and he's like, come with me, basically.
Come with me, and you'll see, or overthrow your brother.
And then Kelsier starts screaming in his head to kill, what's his name? Quellian.
Yeah. Kelsier's really screaming to kill a lot, which, good signs. Because I'm like, it's ruined. It's gotta be ruined because of the hemalurgy and stuff. He got spiked. It's crazy how many important people got spiked. Penrod's Spook too. Spook also got spiked. Spook got spiked.
So then we go back to Sazed. He's looking at all of his metal mines and ferrochemy stuff because he's just like thinking about it. He's just kind of dwelling on that, and then here's the conversation where Breeze comes and talks to him.
Yeah.
He's like, why take such good care of them? You never wear them anymore. In fact, you seem to spurn them. I do not spurn the metal mines, Lord Breeze. In a way, they're the only sacred thing I have left in my life.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of like a...
Yeah, because what do they end up saying in this conversation?
They're kind of going back and forth, like part of it about, like, Tindwyl, and, like, the Lord Ruler's death, and just, like, his place in the world. Like, I just don't think he believes that the stuff that they were doing mattered anymore.
Right.
Like, all of the information is just, like...
Yeah.
It's like, I can use it, but, like, what's even the point? I tried to teach, and no one wants to...
Right.
No one wants to hear about it anyway, and then,
Yeah, because he was talking about, like, you know what I was doing? It's like, you were teaching. It's like, yep. But no one cared.
So, like, part about Tindwyl, part about, like,
Yeah.
feeling like, well, even if I did, like,
Yeah, everything that he was sort of trained to do kind of turned out to be sort of pointless, he feels.
Yeah. So then Breeze is kind of just trying to, like, give him a more positive perspective and stuff in general. And,
always trying to lighten the mood.
Yeah. And kind of try and convince him out of, like, the pressure that he puts on himself, I think.
Right.
And then there's another earthquake.
Yeah. There's another earthquake, and then after the earthquake, Spook shows up?
Yeah, Spook shows up.
Because they're like, do those seem more frequent to you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because then Spook asks if there's a way to reverse the process of the
water that's been draining down into the cache to have it go back into the canals.
Yeah. Right. So he wants Sazed to use his metal mines to figure out how to reverse that process.
Yes, to use the engineering knowledge he has in his metal mines to do something with that. I kept thinking about that, and I'm like, I don't think we're there yet, and so, like, yeah.
Yep, and so then Sazed gets enough, like, kind of motivation to...
Yeah, it's like, well, if I have to, I guess I can use my metal mines again for this, which is,
Yeah. So, yeah, that's...
That's chapter, what was it, 46?
Yes.
Alright, so chapter 47.
We are back with Elend. First, he's kind of, like, thinking about the mists. And, like, thinking of Kelsier's... The mists are our friend. They hide us, protect us, give us power. And all that. Just, like, kind of thinking about that. And then thinking about how, like, he can't go rescue her. He can't go, like, put himself in there last time. Like, it, like, was bad or whatever. And so he's going to have to trust that either she'll make it out or whatever.
That she'll be able to figure something out.
Yeah. And basically the sacrifice that she made in letting Elend die, like...
Yeah, all that time ago.
Yeah, he would have... He's like, he has to make that same...
kind of sacrifice. Yeah.
Basically.
Yep. But also, look how well that worked out last time.
Right.
But, it's the spirit of the thing.
Yeah.
Greater good and all that.
Yeah. And then Elend Moore's, like, thinking about how he like, the mists just feel right. Like, he doesn't get what Vin's talking about.
Yeah, we're like, what is up? What's up with the mist? What the fuck is up with the mist? why does the mist feel right for him, but not for her?
Yeah.
Why did it used to, because it used to feel right for her, but that was when she was being, like, fucking manipulated by Ruin to go do all the shit.
Yeah.
But now, it feels like it hates her, and she's locked in, you know, what is up with the mist? Is he being, like, Ruin guided?
Yeah.
You know, not, like, literally, but, like, you know, is the mist not to do with Ruin? Is it, what's
What's up with the mists?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, then there's a fight.
Mm-hmm. A fight?
Is that? Oh, no, they're talking about Luthadel. I jumped ahead. My bad.
You jumped ahead? Yeah, it's like, I don't remember. I know that Ellen ends up going off at some point, but I don't remember what's happening right now.
They're kind of just, like, talking about, like, what's happening, like, are we gonna attack? Like, you know, like, oh, that's like, she's dead. You gotta get over it. And then he's like, I trust her. If anyone can get out, Vin will. Mm-hmm. You're in denial. Perhaps? Are we going to attack? Try and get her back? This is a siege set. The point is not to attack. And our supplies? Demu had to put the soldiers on half rations today. We'll be lucky not to starve ourselves before we can get Yeoman to surrender.
Right.
And he goes, we have time yet. Not much. Not with Luthadel in revolt.
Right. Yeah, things aren't going great right now.
Yeah.
Things are going pretty poorly, and I wonder how it's all going to sort of turn around in the end.
Yeah. And then there's a fight. Someone punches Demu, which is one of the generals.
Oh, right. That fight.
Yeah.
You're like, there's a fight, and I'm like, what fight?
Yeah. No, just like a fist fight.
Right, yeah. Like a fight in camp among the soldiers.
Yeah. And like, between some of the
Mist Fallen and the regular folk who are superstitious.
And then Bilge or whatever from book 1, that's the guy that Demu fought, that Kelsier had Demu fight back in book 1.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's the one who punched Demu?
I believe so. I believe it's Bilge. I recognize the name.
That's crazy.
Even when I saw it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that was... I haven't checked. I found this... Bilge. There he is. Bilge.
And that's the guy in this chapter?
That's the guy in this chapter who punches Demu.
Damn. Yeah, that's crazy. all the way from book 1.
Yeah.
So they've had beef for a while now.
Yeah. And now he's executed.
Yeah.
It's like, if it was a captain, I could have done, you know, this, that, and the other, but he was one of my generals, and this is the law, and so he's going to be executed.
Yep. Which is unfortunate.
Yep. And so then he, like, in order to not have this issue in the future, he's like, can you go help reinforce Luthadel? Basically, in like a kind-ish way, you know, sending them off so that, you know.
Yeah, so that there's no more sort of infighting in that way.
Yeah.
And he sends the Mist Fallen off,
yes.
right?
Yeah, because it's like 300 people.
That's funny. Because that means like Demu and the Mist Fallen are going to be like going to Luthadel, and given where we end off in Luthadel.
Yeah.
In this section, like...
Yeah.
Just like we'll get to it, but like when we get to this last chapter that we're going to be reading, I want to think about that in relation to and
the fact that Demu and all of his people are heading there.
Yeah.
Yep. So the end of the chapter is just Ellen basically being looking at a bunch of maps and Koloss movements or whatever, and deciding to go get some more like Koloss reinforcements.
Yes.
To be more threatening.
Yep. That's what I've been waiting for.
Yep.
Chapter 48.
48. We are back with Vin. Days passed in the cavern.
Yep.
And
she's eating canned food.
Yep.
Canned stew.
Yep. She's kind of trying to think back on her like own thoughts and stuff, and trying to figure out which, you know, like what is stuff that she like just remembers from Reen, and what is Ruin and stuff.
Yeah, because Reen.
And then she also comes to the conclusion, like both from like like the Lord Ruler and stuff, that Ruin can't read minds. He can speak in her head, but can't read her mind.
Yeah. Right. Which is important. When we start in Final Empire, Reen's already dead.
Yes.
How long has Reen been dead?
I'm not sure for how long, but for, I think, at least a couple years.
Yeah, because, like, Reen didn't die when she was, like, a small child, but she was still, like...
Yeah.
Young, all things considered. But she's also fairly young at the start of...
She's, like, 16. I think it might have been, like, 3 years, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so she was maybe, like, 13 or something.
Yeah.
When Reen died. Yeah, so trying to keep... And she's, like, in her early 20s now?
Basically, yeah.
She's like 20, 21, something like that.
Yeah.
I think, in this book. So it's like, trying to remember since Reen disappeared when she was like 13 or whatever.
Yeah, and then she's trying to, like, figure out, like, Ruin's nature. It's like, each time Ruin spoke to her, it gave her clues about its nature. Those clues might give her the means to defeat it. Defeat it, Ben thought. It's a force of nature, not a man. How could I even think to defeat something like that? Everyone called the Lord Ruler a god. I killed him.
Right. It's also it's like, and how are you supposed to do that from inside this this cache?
She's like, I get information. This is all I can do right now. I can get information.
All I can do is get information and eat canned stew. Eat canned soup. Which luckily gives her some hydration.
Yeah. She's also, like, kind of connecting it to, like, Zane heard voices.
Yep.
And then also being like, well, Ruin was imprisoned once. Like, that could happen again,
Mm-hmm.
And then that brings up another question. Why hasn't it destroyed us all? Why play games with armies?
Mm-hmm.
And then Ruin's prior imprisonment meant that the mists wasn't related to Ruin, or at least the connection wasn't as simple as she assumed.
Right.
Letting Ruin go hadn't been what prompted the mists to start coming during the day and killing people. In fact, the day mists had started to appear as much as a year before she released Ruin.
Right, because the mists were killing people in Book 2 before Ruin was even free.
And the mists had started killing people in Luthadel some hours before Vin had found her way to the well.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, is the mist some third thing?
And, so what do I do now? Ruin was imprisoned long ago, perhaps by something I can find and use again.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's kind of, like, thinking back over her, like, days of imprisonment. She looked for water, she got canned food, opened those, just thinking, like, why had Ruin chosen her? Why not lead someone else to the Well of Ascension? Someone easier to control. She could understand why Ruin had chosen Alendi. However, during Vin's day, the well had somehow been moved to Luthadel.
Mm-hmm.
Or perhaps Luthadel had been built on top of the well.
Yeah.
Which is,
Right.
So she's just kind of, like, trying to go through everything and figure it out. And then we have the whole, Lord Ruler's whole letter. That whole, like, thing on the dash.
Yes.
I have failed you.
Mm-hmm.
All of that.
Right, yeah, because she's been, like, going over and, like, reading it. She's, like, through touch, been sort of, like, figuring out what it says and reading and rereading it.
Yeah, and she's, so there's, like, however, if you are reading this, I have failed. That means I am dead. As I write this, I find that prospect to be less tragic than I might previously have assumed. I would rather not deal with the thing. It has been my constant companion, the voice that whispers to me always, telling me to destroy, begging me to give it freedom. I fear it has corrupted my thoughts. Though it cannot sense what I think, it can speak inside my head. 800 years of this had made it difficult to trust my own mind. Sometimes I hear the voices and simply assume I am mad.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing has whispered to me that I'm a fool to expose myself by writing this and letting others see it. That is primarily why I decided to go through with the creation of this plaque. Mm-hmm. Doing so seemed to make the thing angry.
Yeah.
And then kind of like talking... I've tried to be a good ruler. At first I was too young, too angry. I made mistakes. Yet I've tried so hard. I nearly destroyed the world with my arrogance, and I fear I have nearly destroyed it again through my rule. I can do better. I will do better. I will create a land of order. The thoughts in my mind, however, make me wonder how much of what I do has been twisted from my original intentions. At times, my empire seems a place of peace and justice. Yet, if that is so, why can I not stop the rebellions? They cannot defeat me. I must order them slaughtered each time they rise up. Can they not see the perfection of my system? Regardless, this is not a place for justification. I need no justification, for I am, after a form, God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then you're basically like the storage. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't.
Right. It's very interesting because it makes me think of like it very much makes me think of Rand. Mm-hmm. Like it's different.
Yeah.
But sort of like, you know, the thing yelling at me to kill, and always with Rand, it's like kill them.
Yeah.
You know, whenever it comes with certain people.
Yeah.
You know, the voices and the like being super powerful and I must be right. You know. Sort of stuff that kind of comes with being the chosen one.
Yeah.
You know, as far as Rashek's concerned, he's the chosen one.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm the hero of ages. I will be, you know, I will be able to last throughout the ages. So you know, that's what that means.
Yep. So it's like, so of course, whatever I do is gonna be right.
Yeah. But yeah, I just like that little.
It's like, can't they see the perfection in my system? Then
yeah.
What? It's like,
that is so preservation to me. Like that line. Like, just can't you see the perfection of my system?
Yeah. It's like, why can't I keep the rebellions from happening?
Yeah. Like this. Like I set this up, and like it should work perfectly, and just like. You know,
stay exactly as it is.
But then people keep coming and trying to change it here and there, and I gotta keep putting them. You know, like it's so preservation to me.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
There's like both like the ruin to like, you know, destroy all of that, and then there's like the kind of like whispering in his head, and then there's like the kind of preservation aspect of him of just. You know,
keep everything
the same.
You know, just like this forever.
Yeah, if everyone does it this way and it all, you know,
yeah, it's interesting.
It'll all be perfect.
Yep, and is that the end?
It was the end of the plaque.
Right.
Kind of just thinking over how like it sucks that the first line is "I have failed," and she's like, "Well, I kind of hoped that there was something here." Right. Oh, yeah, there actually is a very important end to that plaque that I missed.
Yeah, I thought so.
That was my bad. Still I do, for you are my people. I am the hero of ages. I'm going to go a paragraph before. Perhaps these storages will let mankind survive a little longer. Perhaps not. I am dead. I doubt that I should care. Still, I do, for you are my people. I am the hero of ages. That is what it must mean. Hero of ages. A hero that lives through the ages, as I do. Know that the thing's power is not complete. Fortunately, I have hidden its body well.
Right. Yep, because I had mentioned that before, and my current guess is that is the trust. That's my theory.
Got you.
Yeah, I was just like listening, and he was like, "I've hidden it well," and I was like, "Is it the trust?" Because like, you know, the trust seems to be like. Well hidden in that sense. Like the Khandra know, but the Khandra don't tell anyone, and no one really knows about the Khandra homeland.
Yeah.
And the Khandra have a whole thing with the Lord Ruler where it's like, oh, when this all goes down, come to me, and all this sort of stuff. So it's like, is it related? Yeah.
Yep. And then the end of the chapter is just the door to the cavern opening.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And it opens, and it's like, oh.
Yep.
It's opening. Yep. And that's the end of chapter whatever?
Yes, chapter 48.
Chapter 48. Alrighty. Chapter 49 then.
We are back with Cesar.
Yeah. And he's working on that engineering project.
That's a lot of this chapter.
Yeah.
You
get some interesting stuff about the whole, like, the metal mines.
Yep. A bit more, like, kind of technical, like, how that works with, like... removing the memory and it, like, you know.
Yeah, we sort of get from his perspective as he, like, recalls the thing, writes it down, and then immediately forgets it again and then has to, like, read it. Yeah. Read it again. And it's like, you know, he learned all this stuff about engineering and immediately forgot it by putting it in the metal mines.
Yeah.
And so it's like, he's not a master, but he can suddenly just, like, he's better than a layman. than just like, a regular person when it comes to it, especially since he like, it's as if he just memorized all of it. It's like, imagine if you could cram for a test and then actually record that into a metal mind, and then during the test pull out all of your cramming at once. It's like that. Yeah, it's super interesting, and it's like useful.
Yeah. And then says it's like, yeah, it's possible, and he's just like trying to figure it out. And then Breeze is like, it's good to see you excited about something, like, and into a project, because we haven't seen that from you in a while. And it's just kind of like Sazed being excited about something, which has been very rare.
Right, it's like, sometimes you need to throw yourself into a little project.
Yeah, and then Sazed feels guilty for feeling happy and like and enjoying this because of like everything else that's going on, and probably also from grief from Tindwell as well. Like, how dare I feel happy when I should feel like sad because of this death? And all of that.
Yeah, I get that. It's like, but with all the bad stuff going on, you feel like I shouldn't be happy right now.
I shouldn't be allowed to, and it's like, that's
I feel you.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, like, Spook's also there.
Yeah.
Like, he's just, like, there in the caves now with them. Now that he's, like, come back.
Yeah, he's not in the conversation, but, like, he's just over on the side.
Right.
And they kind of are talking about how, like, Spook seems odd recently.
Yeah. And then eventually, what's-her-name shows up.
Yes. And he's also thinking about, like, how long has it been since Spook has slept and all of that.
Yeah.
Like, what's been, just all that. Like, what's been going on with Spook?
Yeah, what's going on with Spook? Why is he acting like this?
Yeah, and he's like, if I didn't know any better, I'd say he was burning pewter to stay awake. Like, Sazed is thinking that.
Yep. And also, because there's a whole thing about, like, he shouldn't have been able to survive, or like, when he jumped out that window... Yeah. And landed.
It was too good of a landing.
It was too good of a landing. It was too high up. He should have like injured himself more. Yeah. And so there's just like this evidence that seems to point to him somehow being able to burn pewter.
Yeah. And then they're like going through the cache, being like, why is there so many like stuff? Like, what was he preparing for?
Yep.
It's like this.
Yep.
And then Spook, if someone wants to see you.
Yep.
And it's Beldre.
Yep. And that whole conversation goes a certain way.
Yep.
Because she's not exactly... I forget exactly how it goes, but they have like a whole thing about like... I mean, it looks bad that you, like, showed up here and we can, like, spin it a certain way.
Yeah, so, like, she shows up, she's like, don't kill my brother. Like, that's why she's there. She's, like, trying to get him to not kill him.
Right. And it's like,
and then, so then she's like, you're gonna kill my brother or whatever. And then Breeze is, now where did you get an idea like that? We're in the city to forge a treaty with your brother, not assassinate him. Do we look like the types who would be good at that sort of thing? And Beldre shot a glance at Spook. Him excluded. Spook is harmless, really. You shouldn't... Breeze, that's enough. You're making us both seem like idiots. Beldre knows why we're here. Everyone in the city knows.
Yep.
And then, yeah, they are like... So sorry, Beldre, but you're not leaving.
Yeah, it's like
we're sending around a thing that says she defected to us, and
yeah, and they have a whole thing about her being kind of like naive to show up like this.
Yeah. They're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like, well, you're not leaving now. You've been sort of lightly kidnapped, but also you showed up here on your own. Yeah, we didn't go and kidnap you. You came over here on your own, and now...
I mean, it's kind of an All-Rianne situation.
Right.
Not quite the same, but...
I turned away and then didn't cough and then turned back towards the microphone and coughed.
In the camera?
In the camera, yeah.
Sure.
It's a good thing this isn't a camera.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, and so then there's another like few thoughts of like, when did Spook get so clever? And then you can't do this. This is deceitful. What would the survivor say if he knew what you were planning? The survivor? Spook asked, chuckling. I have a feeling he'd approve. If he were here, I think he'd suggest that we do this very thing.
Which is unfortunate to hear. I don't like hearing that, considering we know that the survivor in Spook's head right now is not the best. Ruin, like, we've been talking about how Ruin's not entirely bad.
Yeah.
But, like...
But his current goal is to destroy...
everything.
Yes,
so it's like, so maybe Spook... I'm so worried. I'm so worried about... like, spooking them. Because they don't know about the hemalurgy stuff.
Nope.
And it's just... Nope. They don't know. And I'm like, they gotta learn at some point. Like, everyone's spread out. And I'm like, how's it all gonna, like, go down exactly? Yeah. Yep. How's it all gonna come together in the end? Is that it for the chapter?
Yeah, for 49.
For 49? Alrighty. Chapter 50.
We are back with Vin, and the cavern opens, and so she like dives out and wants to fight. And it's Teldon Hastings, which is one of Ellen's friends, is like trying to make a deal with her, and it was like, I have a bet going that I can get you to drink this drugged stuff so we can take you out to talk to Yeoman.
Yeah.
And she realizes that there's not much she can do to get them to open up the like trap door, so she's still stuck, and she doesn't want to kill all the servants there, and it still probably won't work, and so she's like, fine, I'll take it. Yeah. And then she takes it and tries to use allomancy to like make it go through her system faster, like use pewter, but it gets rid of all of her pewter instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's basically the chapter.
Yeah, because it is interesting. It's a very interesting chapter in terms of, like, because I'm talking to Teldon, who is
a friend of Ellen's.
Yeah, who was Ellen's friend, and he was like, no, I mean, I think the Yeoman's just, like, chill guy. Chill enough.
Yeah, she goes, I have to grant Yeoman that much. The city may not be perfect, but he's created a place where men like Teldon can retain some of their innocence.
Yep.
Because she looks at him and kind of thinks of Ellen, like, prior to everything.
And it's interesting because it's like, listen, what else can you really do? You just got to drink it or you continue to starve down here. And so it's an interesting little, ultimatum. Yeah. And and she tries. She's like, well, the best I can do is try and pewter through it and see if, and it kind of works, but not enough. Yeah. So she gets, she's moved from captured to different capture.
Yeah, basically.
She has been extracted from the point.
Yeah, she didn't have quite enough pewter to get through it all.
Yep, and so that's chapter 51.
Or 50.
Chapter 50.
Yeah.
Right, chapter 50. Now it's chapter 51.
Yeah. So Ellen, he's flying through the mists to go get some more Koloss.
Right, and he talks about, like, Vin's weird...
Her, like, cyclone with the horseshoes.
And how he can't quite get himself to do it.
He'd given up on the horseshoe method after 4 or 5 failed attempts. Vin had seemed puzzled that he couldn't get it down. She'd apparently figured it out on her own, needing less than an hour's practice to perfect it. But, well, that was Vin.
yeah, because pushing and pulling is sort of her, like, specialty.
Oh, yeah.
That and, like, pewter, I guess. I mean, it's like she can pierce copper clouds. She's always burning pewter to keep herself alive.
Yeah, she's basically just always burning pewter.
But pushing and pulling...
I think she's probably a pewter savant.
Yeah, I would...
At this point.
I wouldn't be surprised if she was a pewter savant at this point. Like, that thought had very much crossed my mind whenever they first sort of got mentioned earlier. Because she's just like...
She's basically constantly.
Yeah, she's basically constantly burning it. She was burning it for, like, days and days in, like, the previous book. Just, like, not sleeping and stuff. She She
basically always has it on anyway, and then, like... And then now she just has it on, like, through the night and stuff, too. She just, like, doesn't sleep really.
Even in the first book, she could, like, burn it unconsciously and stuff. So it's just sort of, like... It's very much, like, in her. Yeah. But yeah, pushing and pulling had been, like,
skill-wise, her, like, best.
Her best, and like, getting into pushing matches with, like, Kelsier and stuff, and she's, like, weirdly strong and whatnot.
Yeah. And then, it's just him flying over to the Koloss.
Yeah, Kelsier had also been really good at pushing and pulling. Because it was like, he taught her pushing and pulling, and then the rest of them were, like, really good at their thing and teaching her. Yeah. Because that was part of the whole...
Yeah, she basically had the best teachers in all of the different Mistborn disciplines.
Mm-hmm. That was a big part of the first book.
Yep. That's honestly the main bit of this chapter. It's interesting fighting, like him going in and getting all the Koloss.
Yeah, because like I remember listening to this chapter and like kind of going back over it a couple times because I felt like I kept missing stuff, but it's partially just because it's just like, kind of like action happening. Yeah.
And he's just kind of has a few like thoughts of just like wanting to be able to protect people better and stuff like that. That's kind of this...
Yeah, it's just like he's just kind of like going through and fighting the shit out of some Koloss and then like trying to take them over and I think there's like a thing about like him trying to take them over and it's like there must be someone like controlling them or something.
At the end, he looked through the falling ash, turning towards the remaining Koloss, thousands and thousands of them, who now just stood motionless and patient around him, under his control at last. There's no way I took them all at once, he thought warily. What happened to the Inquisitor? There was usually one with a mob of Koloss this big. Had it fled? And so, he should have felt triumphant. Yep, his victory was spoiled by the Inquisitor's absence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this whole chapter has like an odd feel to it, where it's just sort of like Elend just kind of like mad and violently... Yeah. Taking out Koloss and getting sort of some of his, like, emotion out.
Partially because Vin is captured and then, like, everything's crumbling. He, like, doesn't quite know what to do, like, in general.
Yeah, and so he's kind of, like, taking it out. Like, you gotta go get some Koloss.
Yeah, and so then, let's just kill some monsters. This is, you know, some good stress relief.
Yeah, and then, don't like the people...
The villagers come out and you're him, aren't you? The Lord Ruler?
Yep.
Yeah. And then he goes, close enough.
Yeah. Close enough.
And then he thinks, the time for killing hasn't ended at all. It has just begun.
Yeah.
So he's gathering Koloss to go.
Yeah, because this chapter has, like, some of, like, Elend kind of thinking about violence and fighting and having to fight and how he wants to do things peacefully, but, you know, and it's like, oh, Elend.
Yeah.
I worry about you, Elend. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's 51.
Yep.
Chapter 52. Last chapter.
Yep. We are back at Luthadel, which is been a second.
Yes. Tensoon. He made it to Luthadel because he doesn't know.
And he's confused.
He's confused. He's so
like,
confused.
Why? How would Elend and Vin let this happen? What's going on here?
It's like, oh, so Penrod, you know.
Yeah, so Penrod's in charge. And then then he's like, okay, wait, Penrod's in charge, but actually Elend's in charge, but not here, and kind of like figuring that out.
Yeah, because he left
before,
like right before the end of the last book, where all the shit happens with Vin making Elend emperor and all that.
Yeah,
you know?
And Tensoon's actually pretty like mad at himself for that. He's like, why did I do that? Like, why did I even leave? Like, I feel like it was. It wasn't even useful over there, and I could have just been here helping, you know?
Yep. And then it's time for him to go, you know, Kelsier, the Holy Spirit, round 2.
Yeah.
He's really pretending to be Orsur now, because he's pretending to be Kelsier.
Yep.
Yeah, because he gets Kelsier's bones.
Yep.
Because Tensoon had Kelsier's bones or something?
Orsur had them in the old, warehouse where they kept, like, the weapons.
Right, because I think I'd asked before what ended up happening with Kelsier's bones.
Yeah.
At some point. And so, Orsur had them in the warehouse. Yep. Right. And when I said Tensoon had them, right, just a second ago, I meant Orsur because I'm constantly getting...
I knew you did, but just...
It's like I'm constantly... Like, at this point, it's just Tensoon.
Yep, we've really hardly known Orsur.
Which is sad.
I know.
I'm really kind of sad now that we never really got... And also that, like, Orsur and Vin never got to, like...
Yeah.
Instead, Vin and Tensoon had a thing, which was, like, Must have been really weird from Tensoon's perspective.
Yeah, well, he kind of thinks about it here in this bit. He's like, how did Vin even do that? Like, get through to me. Like, that was the time that he hated humans the most, because he was like, he had to torture and kill Ursur, like, do that contract and stuff.
Right.
And then he was like, how did Vin even get through to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, that day, Tensoon's hatred of humans and of himself for serving them had burned more deeply than ever before. How Vin had ever overcome that, he still didn't know.
Yeah, because it's like, she just sort of thought of him as another Khandra, or Sir.
Yep.
And so then it's just like, you know, fuck this, having to work for Zane and all that, and then sort of having to work for Vin.
Yeah.
And how Vin, you know, like, even whenever she's being...
Her meanest,
it's nowhere near as bad
as like Zane's family and stuff.
Yeah,
you know, like,
and so then whenever she gets like even better after that, it's just like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
She didn't end up getting worse. She ended up getting better. Yeah. And so he ends up running around in Kelsier's bones, talking to like the Ska and stuff.
Yeah. He goes, I think, back to the guards at the front first. And I have come to commend your faith. Also, I have come to tell you, I do not approve of how the city is being run.
Yes.
My people are sick. They starve and they die. And then that's when he finds out that Penrod is, like, King Penrod.
Yeah, because
he rules for Emperor Elendventure, who is away at war. And Lord Elendventure, and he approves of how this city is being treated. Kelsier looked angry. Right, because it's from their perspective, seeing Kelsier come up.
Right, because we're from, like, the soldiers' perspectives, and suddenly it's just like, yep, and here's Kelsier.
Yeah, and then that's where they hear that, like, Penrod is, like, going crazy, talking to the air, like, all this.
Yep, because of all the ruin stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the guards say that a group of them had headed to Urteau. And so that's where Tensoon is headed.
Gotcha.
It's to Urteau.
Right. So now Tensoon is heading towards Urteau.
Which has Breeze and Sazed and Spook.
Right. And then
Damu
and his people are coming to Luthada.
Yeah.
Right. Although the thing is that, like, Tensoon's going around being like,
he's telling them to,
what is he telling them to do? He's telling them to, like, get ready for something.
Very well. Pass what news you can. There isn't much time left. Tell the people that when the mists leave, they should immediately find shelter, a place underground, if possible. And he said, the caverns? Where you trained your army? That will do, Kelsier said. Right. So, he's sending the people of Luthadel to the caverns. Or anywhere underground.
Right. And the caverns where he trained them, that's not where the terrorists are right now, because the terrorists are over at the pits of Hathsin, and they're in, like, the structures that were, like, around there and stuff.
Yep, so the pits of Hathsin are up here. That's where the terrace are. And then down here is Feliz. I think it was near Feliz that was the caverns.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's interesting. It's like, go to the caverns and wait there. Yeah, and so it's like, he's going around Luthadel trying to, like, prepare Luthadel, trying to, like, help the Ska and stuff. And then, like, Demu's about to show up in Luthadel. About to.
Yeah. Heading there.
And so, like, I wonder how that's going to go exactly.
Yeah. And then we go back in Tensoon's perspective, and he runs into someone else. He tells them to check in with the guards. It's like, you there. My lord, you've returned!
Yeah, because he's like, oh, fuck, oh, shit, oh, fuck.
Yeah. And then, we stayed in this place, praying for you to come give us counsel. The king is mad, my lord. What do we do? And then he says, Penrod has been corrupted by ruin. The thing seeks to destroy the world. You must gather the faithful and escape this city before Penrod kills you all. My lord, where should we go? Where? There's a pair of guards at the front of Keep Venture. They know of a place. Listen to them. You must get to somewhere underground.
You gotta go hide out in caves and write the Dead Sea Scrolls.
And then he takes off the bones.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was done, he eyed the survivor's bones, feeling a strange reverence. Don't be silly, he told himself. They're just bones, like hundreds of other sets you've used. Still, it seemed foolish to leave such a potentially powerful tool behind. He carefully packed them into the sack he had pilfered, then, using the paws he created, tied it to the back. So he has Kelsier's bones.
Right, and he's about to go to Orteau, where, like, all the, like... Well, all that...
Yep, all the survivor stuff is happening.
I wonder if, like, Tensoon would have enough, like, knowledge about hemalurgy to talk to...
To Spook?
Yeah, to talk to, like, Spook and Sazed and them about.
Yeah.
But, like, also, his fucking dexterous wolf paws.
Yeah, little dog paws.
Like, he makes them, like, more dexterous to actually be able to, like, tie stuff and, like,
then
use
using
them.
paws he created to have more dexterity than those of a real wolfhound.
It's so... Like, that's so cursed.
Because that's what he did with the speaking for, like, speaking with a wolfhound. Was
Right.
that he, like, made it, you know.
Made, like, the voice box and stuff.
And, like, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm just, like... I'm thinking about a couple things. One is, in Adventure Time, the deer that takes its hooves off and has little, like, people hands underneath. And also... One time in a D&D campaign that I was a part of, that my buddy was DMing, and he wasn't the one who sort of like normally DMs, but he was DMing, and it was a somewhat evil campaign. It was based off of like the Dark Brotherhood stuff from Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
And so it's like we had to kill this guy and whatnot. And he had this horn that when you blew it, a giant, like, bird came down and picked up the house and flew off.
Okay.
So we're all, like, in this house that's been picked up by a bird, and other, like, flying things are coming in and attacking. And, like, we're up in the air, and it's like, we need to kill this guy, and we get more money if we make it seem like an accident. So, my buddy Evan, who was our normal DM. See, Ethan was DMing, but he wasn't our normal DM. And then Evan, who's normally our DM, he had been given this thing. He had gotten this thing in game. There was this little figurine that was like a black old horse figurine that was a nightmare, like the creature, a nightmare.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it had to be dipped in the blood of the innocent in order for it to activate. But Evan was playing like the one like good guy in our group, or like the most good guy. But the thing was that like it's like wait, so the house has been picked up by the bird. Everyone's being attacked by things. Would you say that like some of these people have like died, there's blood, it's like, there's, like, so I can just, it's fine. And
you can find the blood of the innocent.
Yep, and so he gets the nightmare, and he can, like, talk to it, and, like, and the nightmare, like, understands him, and the nightmare can fly, and so he's like, hey, what I want you to do is let this guy on your back, you're gonna, like, fly out a certain way from the house, and then just kind of, like, go upside down and have him fall off, and then come back. And it'll seem like, oh, he just fell out of the place or whatever. And can you do that? And then Ethan's like, the horse gives you a thumbs up. And it's like, how does he do that? It's like, it's like, the camera's, like, zoomed in on, like, the horse, and then from, like, off, like, screen, like the horse is just like a thumbs up just comes up from the bottom from like off screen. It's like and then we joked about the deer from Adventure Time who takes its hooves off, and everyone was like, that's very cursed. And I always remember that, just the horse just like giving the thumbs up from just like zoom in on the horse, the thumbs up just like comes in from off screen. Just like, yep. It was great. That was my first, technically not my first evil character, but, like, I had done, like, we'd hardly done, like, any, like, back in high school, did some sessions with someone, but it was, like, I don't even know what, like, edition it was. I really didn't They didn't do a good job of explaining
Yeah.
D&D to me and, like, what edition it was, and I had no clue what I was doing. But then this was my first, like, real, like, evil campaign, and I was playing as a bard. I was a glamour bard, which is my favorite kind of bard. And my MO was that I was just straight up a serial killer, whose MO was that, like, I use my magic bard, glamour bard, enthralling powers to enthrall someone so they'll take me home, and then I kill them and I live in their place for a little bit and then I move on. I just, like, enthrall some, like, slightly more well-off person. I live in their house for a little bit, having them enthralled, and then eventually I just, like, kill them and move on. And then, you know, eventually the law just catches up to you. Because he was like, because it's like, you start off in jail. All of you are in jail for a murder that you did commit. You maybe you were justified, maybe you weren't, but the important thing is that you did kill somebody. You were not falsely convicted. And so Evan's character was like, he was a soldier, and his commanding officer gave them some sort of, like, order that was going to get them all killed, so he killed the commanding officer to sort of, like, save everyone. So he was, like, the most, like, justified in the group. Well, I was just like, hey, like, you evil campaign, I'm down. And I think Evan's character ended up, like, he ended up switching to, like, a different character at a certain point. He, like, because we were gonna do, I know I'm going on about this, but, like, Ethan was like, I'd set up this whole thing with Vikings that you were gonna do, but then y'all were like, fuck that, and went the other direction. It's like they were like, with these Vikings, and they fought something, and then all the Vikings that they were with died, and they were like, well, we don't really care about continuing this, so they just fucked off the other direction. And so he was like, I just had to, like, come up with some shit on the spot. So y'all got to, like, the world tree, and there's, like, a squirrel, because, like, in Norse mythology, there's a squirrel who runs along the branches of the world tree and, like, delivers messages and spreads rumors and stuff. And so we get to, like, the world tree that's all, like, fucked up. That was, like, the last thing we did was that we, like, got to the world tree, and Evan fought the squirrel and killed it, and so he became the new messenger of the gods. Got you. And so then he got, like, a new character because his character
was busy.
He was just like, I think that's a great just, like, place for to end. Meanwhile, my tiefling character had, like, a sexy off against a literal demon that was, like, because it's like you're up in the branches of the world tree, so it connects to, like, different realms and stuff, and we were having to, like, fight these different things to, I forget exactly, like, the reasoning. You know, Ethan was just kind of like, Ethan's way better at, like, coming up with stuff on the spot than I am. And so I had a sexy off with this demon, and I won, and I got its, like, pitchfork or something.
Nice.
It was pretty great. And because, like, Ethan gave me this book. It's this book that's got a mouth on it that you feed it things, and it gives you things in return. And so, like, I remember I had fed it a bunch of stuff and got a bunch of cool stuff. I fed it my tail. And got wings. That was great. I fed it one of my horns. Because the tiefling used to have extra bits. So I'm like, here, take one of my horns. Take my tail. And it was like, because you're used to having a tail for balance purposes, you're, like, walking movement speed and dexterity and stuff but now you have wings and can fly, and your flying speed is better than your walking speed. So when you can fly, it's better, but when you're, like, walking, because you fucked up your balance by getting rid of your tail, and that was funny. He, like, I think when I gave up the horn, he gave me, like, a needle that I poked my arm with, and it turned my arm metal. Or something like that. I was someone's edgy DeviantArt OC by the quote end of that campaign, because we never finished it. It's just one of those college ones that just kind of fizzled out at that point. But I was someone's edgy DeviantArt OC by the end of it. It was great.
I love it.
I don't remember why I started talking about that.
Tensoon's oddly dexterous paws.
Yes, oddly dexterous paws. Right. And then I started talking about that campaign. Yeah, his little oddly dexterous paws, it kills me. I'm just like, weird little dog hands. I imagine they look like raccoon paws, because they've got the
little fingers.
The little grabby hands. Yeah. Meanwhile, while I was saying all that, Straub was just stacking random things on the table.
Containers, a whole big tower, and then then unstacked it.
But yeah, that's chapter 52.
Yeah.
I think we've thoroughly finished that and gone on a nice little tangent about it. So yeah. And now that's
Yep, that's the end of the section. We're gonna try to do 53 through
63?
63 in this next section.
Right, so that'll be about like 11 chapters.
Yep.
And then after that, it should be...
Then it'll be the last one, and we will be done with Mistborn Era 1, which is crazy.
Yeah, and that next section after, like, our last little section...
Yeah.
Will be, like, a similar number of pages.
Yeah.
But like,
way more chapters.
Way more chapters, because you said we get, like, a bunch of, like, really, like, short chapters.
There's a few, like, one-page chapters in there or whatever.
Yeah. So there'll be a lot of timestamps for me to deal with on that one. But yeah, this has been the episode. Yeah, comment.
Yes.
We love to see your comments and your we on the last video, I was like looking at like the analytics and stuff, and not the last video, but the video before last had like a weird like spike in watch time.
Yeah.
After being out for a while, and I'm like, some people actually watched. Weirdly, they were like, we were getting views from like Drawfee
videos or something.
Which were like big Drawfee fans.
Yeah.
It was just so weird that it was like, because it's like
from a Drawfee video or whatever.
Yeah, where it's like, here's what videos are like recommending your thing and whatnot, like, you know. And it was like some Drawfee videos, and according to the chart or whatever, they were actually like watching it, like watching it. So like, if you're a Drawfee fan, we're also Drawfee fans, and so like that's cool. You know, how about that, Draw Detectives? Am I right?
I am excited for the next one.
Yeah,
there's 2 out so far, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
2 episodes.
Yeah. I think 2 episodes out so far. Yeah, and I've been seeing a lot of like on Tumblr. There's always like Draw Detectives fan art, as well as there's been a bunch of fan art for their most recent thing, their fake isekai anime that they came up with in their most recent episode. People have been doing tons of fan art for that, which has been funny, and the sort of like pretending that it's a real show that exists.
I love it.
A little bit of that, which you love to see, and also because like the name of it was like an absurdly like I want to unify the kingdom, but the second male lead is so indecent or whatever. Taking that and turning it into like an anagram. Yeah. Not an anagram, but
yes.
You know, I can never remember the name of that one where you just take like the first letter.
It has left my brain.
Mm-hmm. Because it has a name. I mean, technically, I think it's an initialism, because the other more specific word is whenever it makes a new word. Like scuba. Like scuba is one of those. But it's not anagram, because anagram is when you take the letters.
Acronym?
Acronym. Yes. I think an acronym, technically, it has to like make a pronounceable new word. While initialism is just whenever you have the letters. But no one uses it that way, therefore acronym is the correct term. Yeah, turning it into an actual acronym where it's just an ungodly string of letters. It just looks like a fucking key smash. And I just have to like read it and be like, "What? Oh, right, that's yeah." But it's great. Drawfee on Tumblr is good. Yeah. Because I never saw like Drawfee stuff like on like Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, I've been seeing it on Tumblr some.
But like on Tumblr, that's where I see it, and it's great. But yeah, this has been our episode.
Yeah.
We love it when you comment and like and subscribe and all that. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And boy, we're getting close to the end of Era 1. Mm-hmm. Next time we're gonna be reading like Sphere or something. And no one's gonna care about that. like we've been getting like 45 views consistently on these ones, and I'm expecting us to do Sphere and to get like no views.
Yeah.
But yeah. Have a lovely whatever time it is. And now you can go forth and think about book on your own time. And Tilly apparently wanted to...
Say hi at the last minute here.
Yes.
Make noises into the mic. I don't know if you can hear it.
Mm-hmm. Tilly, do you have anything you want to say? No?
Yeah.
She just wants pets.
Hi.
Yeah. But yes, have a lovely whatever time it is, wherever you are.
Have a lovely day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.